Hello. Hello. Hi. Okay. So today, wait, go to. You can click that. Yeah, there you go.
Button.
There you
Okay.
go. Okay, and now there.
Uh,
Hi, everybody. Hello. Ah, thank you. Thank you for. I'm glad you like my new model. We're not using it today. We're taking a break from her, but don't worry, she's gonna come back. She's basically, I figured since David is here with us today, he needed a big hat to sit on, and my other model has tentacles. And he could sit on tentacles, but
this ain't that kind of screw.
this ain't
Yeah,
that
no.
kind of. I mean, we did talk about pegging you that one time.
Okay, well, yeah, but that's like not an all the time thing. This is the wrong website for that.
Just a sometime things. But welcome in, everybody. So here's the tea. Our last playthrough, our Vanya playthrough, it was meant to be a Legacy of the Dragonborn playthrough, and we did not do that well at all. And by well, I mean we got very distracted almost immediately, and yeah. So David is here out of spite. David was so mad watching me play Legacy of the Dragonborn. He is here to show me and to show us how to do it efficiently and correctly. Do you have anything you'd like to say, David?
Yeah, so this literally only happened because in the car at one point I went, Eebee, I bet I could do this way faster than you. So I'm going to.
Content!
And then we decided, content! So here we are.
So you're gonna have to alt tab because it's not set as the game source because I had a different game source the other day.
What the hell? Which one is the game source?
It's the one that says game capture.
Wow.
Then you set it to Skyrim.
Why are there? Oh my god. Okay, there it is.
Bestie. There you go. There you go. Okay.
All right.
I've been trying to catch more of your streams, but because I live in different time zone. Oh, well, thank you for being here. Never apologize if you can't come to stream every time. I just appreciate you in general.
Eebee, that didn't work.
Did you click?
Oh, wait, there it is. Oh, never mind. All right.
You have to be patient. But thank you, Gamer. I appreciate it. So, what's the tea? Where are we starting? What are we doing?
Okay, all right. So we're starting. First of all, we're starting with a mage character because one of the things that you need to do for this is you need to max out every skill. And doing magic first, so you have magicka, makes that easier. So we're doing that. So we're in Solitude, because, of course. These are our spells. I've gotten us a little stat up. This is just things that I picked up from Realm of Lorkhan.
What about your erection?
Yeah, it's there.
Okay, is that, like, important to the...
This is a special tool we'll use later.
This is a surprise tool! A David stream, this is the best day ever!
Okay.
Welcome.
We're not doing a backstory because dealing with backstories is very cool.
Yeah.
But it creates weird situations where, like, I'll end up with a pickpocket of 2. And that's gonna be real hard. So we're just not gonna do a backstory.
Understandable.
It is a cool mod. It's not efficient for this.
I can give her backstory. Like those moments where you just have to walk around. That's my cue to just yap. Because the character we picked is one of my 7 billion OC. Oh, hi.
Oh, hold on. Hold on, the game audio isn't working.
Oh, I think it's because I had it,
Do you have the game muted?
Yeah, okay. I did have the game muted because I was, listening to music and making, Skyrim characters. So Alt-Tab. And then go into sound settings.
Yeah, okay. I do know how Windows works, even if I don't understand your absolutely fucked up OBS setup.
Listen, my OBS is perfectly fine. Is David in control of the model? And if not, can he be? I mean...
I'm Eevee now.
Is this what you want?
This is what the people want.
Do you like the way you look with the model on, by the way?
I'm confused. I'm like, oh shit, I'm adorable. Wait a second.
That's me. I'm adorable.
Leave me alone. Anyway. Alright. First thing we're doing, Dragonborn Gallery. We're going right in. We're going to meet our main man, Aryan. We're going to get access to the Dragonborn. Dave B. That's right. I am the ultimate organism.
Dave B isn't real. It can't hurt you. Dave B.
I'm sorry, can I help you?
Can I have my
The
model
museum is
back? Can I have
currently closed until
myself
further
back?
notice.
Please?
I don't know. Maybe.
May I have my sense of self back?
Sure.
Yay!
Okay, anyway.
Yay!
I'm not wasting any time. We're talking to Aryan.
You
Hi,
do look the
bestie.
adventuring sort.
Hi,
Perhaps you
Pookie.
Okay,
can.
I won't
You see,
skip
we
his
only have a
dialogue.
vast
I'm
array
gonna
of
be
relics
real.
to
This
display
game
in
is
the museum.
13 years old, and we're doing
And
every
I'm afraid
quest
that the
line.
mercenaries and treasure hunters I
We're
hired
skipping
thus
dialogue.
far
I'm gonna skip
We're
dialogue.
skipping dialogue.
If,
than they are worth.
spoiler alert, the
Perhaps I can
companions
give you
are
a chance,
werewolves. We
however.
really don't need, like, we don't need another one
Why
of
would you
those.
say that?
I'll pay you for them.
Listen,
Why
listen.
would you do that?
The game's been out for 13 years. If you're almost 14, if spoilers are an issue for you, please just go play the
I
game.
mean, I've said that already, you know. Well, welcome in, everybody.
Excellent. Well, first
Can I
and
kiss
foremost,
Aryan
I'd
on
like
the
to
lips?
get my hands on one of the
Like, I know you
sixth
can't,
house
but, like,
bellhammers
could
of
I
the House of
personally?
Dagoth. They've
I
become
mean,
increasingly rare.
if he's okay with
One
it.
apparently was
Oh, okay.
stolen recently by some bandits.
He seems like a
Oh, he's so
respectable gentleman.
cute.
Broken
He's
Helm
like-
Hollow.
He's
Another
kinda kooky.
item was stolen
Like,
from
I'm
a
gonna
local collector by the Silent
Thinking
Moon
I'm gonna
Bandits.
be.
The item is known as
I'm gonna
Dennis
be
Stapler's
honest.
Ring.
I kind of have a
It's
crush
likely
on
still in the hideout
him,
west of
and I
Whiterun,
have for
if
like
they
5
haven't
years.
fenced it yet, that
And
is.
they won't make him
And lastly,
romanceable, and
a
it
small
pisses me
shipment
off.
of Arkaviri
Is
relics
Pookie
on its
just
way
a thing
across
people are
Skyrim,
saying
bound
again?
for Markarth. Amongst the items were
See,
some
here, this
jade
is funny to me
carvings.
because you've been
The
calling me
caravan,
that for
however,
like
was
3
attacked
weeks
by
now, and you're
Forsworn,
just now
and it's
asking me
likely
what
they
it
may be
means.
Well, no, like, I know what it
possession.
means, but, like, I also noticed that when we were at the baseball game, your sister just kept going, let's go Pookie to everyone
I
who
mean,
went up to
be
bat.
fair,
So, like,
that's just my sister.
well, that's the thing, though, is, like, I'm like, is this
My
EV2
sister-
brain rot, or
my-
is this just, like, a normal thing?
EB2 creates a parasocial relationship with everyone she meets within like 2 seconds.
That
of
is true.
interacting with them. So, you know,
That's fair. Okay, so,
anything for Pookie.
okay, so, step one is we need to get access to the museum. Excuse me, ma'am.
Step 1, push past the hose.
No, listen, no hose, only relics.
No hose, only relics.
Okay, so first we need to get access to the museum, which means that we're gonna go to Whiterun,
Okay,
Riften, and
Okay.
Markarth, not in that
I
order.
don't want to go to Marker.
No, we're not going inside Markarth. I'm going to step
Oh,
out.
I
Oh my god,
wanna-
who is this? Who are you?
Oh my god, oh, you haven't seen the cats in Skyrim? Also, hi, Blaze. I want to play Skyrim on my smart fridge.
Oh, never mind. Okay, goodbye.
You don't have the cat mod?
No.
Do you want me to send it to you later?
Sure.
Okay, the cat mod, I know it's not in the base collection, but it should be. I really am petitioning. Oh, do you want to watch that guy die?
Nah, we've all seen it. It's fine.
We don't have time for public execution.
Spoiler alert, he dies. Anyway.
Oh yeah, we did do last, we did the Whispering Door quest on last Skyrim Sunday with the fucked up child.
Listen.
And then I talked about that one kid that I taught at school who was a sociopath.
Fuck it. All of Balgriff's kids need therapy.
They're
Okay,
all
like,
dicks.
they're all the worst.
Like, normally I'd be against calling a child a dick, but like,
Listen,
if
they
the
just
shoe fits.
they just need some therapy. Okay, whoops, I didn't mean to do that.
No,
They
I
just need
showed the-
therapy. It's fine, but yeah, they're
I
problematic.
told Chat the story about when a parent came to a parent-teacher conference wearing an Ahegao sweatshirt.
Need a ride?
Yeah, that's a look.
Yeah, that was.
Where do
It
you
was
want to
kind of
go?
the same vibe as the one
Climb and
Danger
back,
Quest.
we'll be off.
Off to Markarth, baby.
No,
Also,
why I'll go to Markarth.
also, Vanilla Skyrim gave me PTSD about these carriages and how they always crash. So I'm gonna quick save before getting on all of these.
Based parent.
It's gonna happen every time.
No, not based parent. No. This was the kid that said he was gonna chop off another kid's head and eat it. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
do. Well,
yeah.
was this the same kid who said he was gonna make a communist utopia where his job was to kiss people, or was that a different
that was
kid?
a different kid.
Okay,
Yeah, that kid was kind of based actually.
that kid was kind of based.
Like,
Like, he doesn't understand how socioeconomic programs work, but
I'm
like,
not gonna be the one to tell him. Like,
I mean, like,
I feel like that's like telling a kid that Santa's not real.
so communism is not when you kiss everybody. You know?
I mean, who's to say? Like,
Where is my smooch, comrade?
the
Like,
kind of therapy that my parents did is a good beating. I'm so sorry, bestie. I'm so sorry. We have to actually go in Markarth because I don't want to.
no, I'm not going to. I don't. I'm not sure if you noticed. I turned right around.
Yeah.
I am going to pick up these alchemy ingredients because again, we're gonna need to grind this. So.
Okay. So, do you have any other things to say, like right now?
Oh yeah, okay. So I do want to mention that this character template, right, is
Can
What?
I yap? Can I yap? Can
so
I yap?
so go ahead and yap, and I'm going to talk about how I ruined her by making her a mage.
Well, no, it kind of makes sense because okay. So, hi, future girl, welcome in. So, you want to be an emotional support child? I mean, so this character that we're playing is Miss Faldra Volrad, and she is part of my novel. If you were at the lore stream yesterday, the writing stream, I talked about her a little bit. And she's an assassin in a abusive marriage. I mean, like. That's pretty much it, right?
I mean, yeah, kind of.
Like, she has lore. She's a MILF.
Right.
And she's got this, like, arcane trickster bit going on. So she is, like, she's mainly meant to be a rogue, but, like, her being a mage to start with isn't too crazy. You know what I mean?
We're going to do everything by the end of the playthrough, so...
Well, welcome in, gamers! To be honest, some communist posters are really gay. I mean, honestly, yeah. Like... Listen, I don't want to get political, but if you show me a picture of two men kissing, I'm gonna listen to what you have to say. Like, what? What?
I like the idea that you can be, like, politically swayed via Yowie.
I mean, yeah, like, isn't the vice presidential debate coming up? Like, again, I don't want to get too political, but, like, if those two dudes just started kissing...
Okay, but, like...
It would heal our country.
I want to say something, I don't know if it's crossing the line, so I won't.
We're towing a dangerous fucking line. We need to stop.
Anyway, Force
Anyway,
Ward!
Fuck the Force.
Oh god, I hit the Imperial by accident. Whoopsie.
That's fine. That's fine.
It's fine. I don't think I have a bounty.
He deserves it, probably. Does LOTD have the... I do not remember Cola. I actually don't know. For being characters of Relic Hunter, I've heard of worse. It's a versatile tool. That's the thing, is she's a thief, she's an assassin, but she also has connections to nobility.
Okay.
So, like, her entire lore is, like, really interesting, but also kind of sad in canon. But in Skyrim, she's just being silly and stealing everything. Oh, good. No one's cock popped out. I was worried about that.
Yeah, I was a little worried about it, too, but I'm like, I need to do it.
It's always stressful on this, where it's, like, the first time you loot someone, it's like... Are we breaking TOS today?
I didn't even linger on the woman that I took the armor off of long enough to see, so I'm like, we're moving on.
The Forsworn are based as fuck. They are natives who are fighting. Honestly, yeah, Forsworn are based. They literally, I remember the first time I did the Forsworn conspiracy. And, like, so many people were like the little, like, dialogue that they have where it's like, and you were working with the Forsworn. I was like, I don't know, they kind of got a point, though.
You did steal this land.
They're kind of right, though. The Forsworn more like the Horsworn. See, I like the Forsworn, but the Horsworn does kind of go hard. Like, I'm not, like, Horsworn affectionate. The only thing I don't like about the Forsworn is, trying to think. I don't like that didn't they, like, kill that one guy?
They kill a lot of people.
Well, yeah, but, like, didn't they... I might be thinking of something else.
They are towing the line between freedom fighter and terrorist group.
I mean... the two genders.
Eebee, no.
I'm sorry. Forsworn are the best example of cool motive, still yeah, like, it was one of those things where I was like, yeah, I hear you, bestie, and then I was like,
I sympathize. I'm trying to empathize. You did just kill a person, so...
Yeah, like, cool motive. Don't murder. Once my male character was abused by his orc wife, and one day he decided that enough is enough and goes on an adventure to become stronger and prove himself. Good for him. I hope he healed. I hope he healed, you know? Is it... Can I say something? No, I'm not gonna say that.
It's your stream. You can say whatever you want.
I
I don't know if Twitch is going to agree, but, like...
Chill out a bit on the human sacrifice and demon worship. Yeah, like, you know, take your land back. Okay. Human sacrifice.
I think the Hag Raven Alliance and ripping people's hearts out kinda is what makes it too much for me.
That's my line. I don't fuck with... Did you know there's a mod that lets you fuck the Hag Ravens?
I'm sure there's more than one.
Yeah. Would you?
No.
You don't want the Hag pussy?
No. Do you?
I mean, no, but I was just wondering, like, if you would.
See, because the way you're saying it makes me feel like you've thought about it a few times.
I mean,
Y'all's
Yeah,
palace is
like you
something to see.
haven't.
No.
Dragon search, they call it.
Fuck's
Old
wrong with
dragon
you?
skull
I mean, like
hanging
not
on
in
the
like
wall.
a sexy way, but in just like a kind of way, you know?
I mean, if you want every venereal disease, then sure.
Buy easier. It's true.
STD speed.
Just a funny pseudonym.
Okay,
Oh my god.
so we're done in Markarth. We're in Whiterun. We're not going inside Whiterun.
There's one that makes Hagraven sexy. Can you send it to me for research purposes? And Draugr sexy? The Draugussy?
You need to stop.
I'm sorry. Their cause is just. It doesn't help. Yeah. The actually fanatical group of Reachmen. The Reachmen are way more chilled out. See, Reachmen I fuck with. Forsworn? Divine shrines for all those diseases? That's okay. Do you think, like... Wait. I don't know what it is, but whenever I have you on stream, I say, like, way more stupid shit than normal. Or do I just... Actually...
I have
do
that
this-
effect on people.
Well, no, I'm wondering... Do I always say shit this stupid, or am I just now, like, aware of it because I have, like, a person, like, next to me in live time and not, like, the chat delay?
It's the second one.
Oh. Because I was about to say, you know how, like, bug chasers are a thing in real life?
Yes.
Do you think there's people in Skyrim that have a fetish to get every STD, and then they go to a shrine, and then they do it again?
See, my first thought was that, like, there's got to be, like, a shrine of Dibella or whatever.
Welcome in, everybody!
Like, at the exit to every brothel, because it's like, oops, got an STD, clear that shit right up,
Well, it's
you know?
like, listen.
But, I mean, you can do that too, I guess.
I always find fantasy explanations of STDs and protection really, really funny. Like, what was the thing in The Witcher, the anti-pregnancy
Okay,
spell or
I was
some
wrong
shit?
about that. I was thinking of something else. The Witcher is just like, sorceresses are sterile.
I mean, that does kind of make sense, actually. Like, I can see that being a thing.
Yeah.
David just absorbs the one brain cell that Eebee has. Listen, yeah. Yeah. We are gonna get David a little PNG tuber for this, because this is gonna be something like a thing, like a long-term...
Game, the crab isn't dead. Game? Okay.
Like a long-term thing we have, so David isn't just a static little man on my hat. I mean, do you like being on my hat?
I enjoy being on your hat.
Oh, okay.
I'm just a little guy.
You're just a little guy. What am I?
I need to, like, think before I say things, because that wouldn't have been nice. Also just a little guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say?
My knee-jerk reaction was, oh, bitch. Which, like, isn't true. But,
I
like...
mean, I don't know, man. I believe it. There's some stupid-ass J.K. Rowling tweet that canonizes fetus, deletes it as a spell. Listen, J.K. Rowling's a fuckwad for a variety of reasons.
She
But,
canonized that wizards shit their
Yeah,
pants.
I was like, also, you're about to die.
I know.
But like transphobia aside, why did we let that slide?
I don't know. There's also, and that was
Like,
even like
why?
after the books, even during the books. Like the entire country of Romania is just dragons, apparently.
Wait, really?
Yeah, like they're just like, yeah, there's a dragon sanctuary in Romania. And I'm like, I don't think the dragons need a sanctuary.
What
They're-
if the dragon sanctuary was like Colorado?
That would be even funnier, actually.
Yeah, Wizard didn't invent toy. Yeah, like why did no one tell her? Huh? Like, everything I've learned about J.K. Rowling has been against my will, but I firmly believe that she just says stupid shit and then runs with it.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, like, that's like literally all of it.
So, to explain what I'm doing right now, by the way, is I'm out of magicka, and this build doesn't do anything if I don't have any of it, so we're
I
regenning.
am a boss, bitch. Okay, you're full health now. You can do it.
Yeah, but now I need magicka back.
Oh. Well, you gotta hit him with the old 1-2. It's the mold getting to her brain.
See you dead.
Have you seen that picture of J.K. Rowling's moldy house?
Yes.
Honestly, listen. You know, I may have been infected by mold, but I didn't say stupid shit on the internet.
We just talked about how you say stupid shit on the internet.
Oh.
You're not, like, a horrible person, but you do say stupid shit.
I say stupid shit that uplifts humanity, not tears it down.
Okay, come on.
Right? She's usually the worst
Ow.
builder ever. See, that's okay, low key. Sometimes I'm like, okay, I sometimes am very insecure about my writing, and I'm not gonna lie, last night's stream had me so excited, and like hyped to keep writing. I couldn't focus on writing because I was so excited. I just spun around in circles for like 45 minutes. But I don't know, sometimes I feel bad about, like, I don't feel like I'm a good writer, and I worry about like getting, like, I'll never be able to get published. But then I read like Colleen Hoover.
Okay, here's the
And
thing.
then I'm
Here's
like,
when I point out like lore inconsistencies in your writing, it's like, hey, have you? Oh, I'm gonna die.
Don't do that.
Have you considered? Oh damn.
That animation was so good.
It's like, have you considered the socioeconomic impacts of this? With J.K. Rowling, it's, hey, you do realize you just made magic slaves, right?
Why didn't Voldemort roll up with a Glock?
They gave Hermione time travel in the 3rd book and then never talked about it again.
I still think that Voldemort should have had a Glock. I think it'd be funny.
Oh no, I have trembling hands and I must defeat Ushmik the slave trader.
I think you can defeat Ushmik the slave trader.
Did
Do you not
that
have your
motherfucker take
weapon?
my dagger?
I mean, you still
Oh,
have
I have a
other
steel
weapons,
dagger, so it's
you
fine.
you should
There
be
we go.
fine.
All right.
Wait, turn around. I thought that guard was just T-posing for a second. Let me grab my, where's my water? There it is. Okay. We got the one jade statue though, right?
We did. I just need to get Den Stagmar's ring, and it didn't go well. So we're gonna try again. Revenge.
That's what it was.
Level
Okay.
1 with
Welcome,
magic
guys.
is rough.
See, that was my thing with Vanya, and I think that's why even with other mage characters, I always gravitate towards conjuration. I like playing Skyrim, but sometimes I don't want to do anything. Does that make sense?
Why would you play video games and not play a video game?
Because I like watching other people do things for me, and I like using Skyrim to play dress up.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know if I told you guys about this, I have a whole separate save that's literally just me playing dress up. That's literally it. There's a reason there were no American wizards in the whole series. You could have, like, a magical gun. Like, what if you had a gun that shot... Wait. I'm so stupid. I'm not gonna finish what I was about to say, because...
No, finish it.
I was about to say, what if they had, like, bullets that were, like, fire? And then I was like, wait.
Yeah, think about that one critically for a moment. Okay, alright. Where is the...
Anyway.
Wait a second.
What?
They took my fucking circlet!
Now all of Skyrim's gonna see your forehead.
No, that's the thing I'm sensitive about!
Yeah, get fucked. Wait, does she have a big forehead? Wait, can we look? Does she got a big forehead?
Her bangs are covering her big forehead.
Oh. That's how you know she's sick and twisted. She has bangs.
Okay,
I
alright.
also have bangs. I now realize after saying
I wasn't gonna say it. I was like, alright, well, you know.
Listen. My
Alright.
character design invokes, like, a mental breakdown.
Okay, alright, we're gonna cheese this a little bit.
You're not being very demure, David.
I'm not very demure, I'm a
You're
bastard.
not being very mindful. Or cutesy.
Correct.
Demure.
Correct.
You're kind of being a little bitch.
Oh god. Fuck. Okay.
Yeah,
We're gonna
isn't
cheat.
that the guy you need to kill to, like, avenge yourself?
Yeah.
Do you have any, like, scrolls or anything like that?
Nope.
Oh, we are freeballing. I would have laughed really hard if you tripped and then fell to your death there. I'm not gonna lie. Oh, it's stealth archer time.
Oh, I only have
let's
2
go.
arrows.
Let's go.
I only have 2 arrows. Hold
stealth
on.
archer, stealth archer, stealth archer.
Oh, actually.
Have you tried taking your cock out in this trying time?
No, should I?
I think it might actually cause the game to crash because...
Yeah, didn't you uninstall the cocks?
No, I fixed the cocks. There's definitely cocks, but, she doesn't have... I think it, like, I don't know if it'll... Well, I mean, I think you... Now I gotta think about it. I mean... If she could... How do we know? Well, I don't have that mod installed, so... I don't know. Did that spell this say erection? Yeah, it's important.
It's a special tool we'll use later.
What context in Skyrim do I need to take my dick out? What are tense story moments in Skyrim where I need to take my dick out?
Oh no, Alduin, the devourer of worlds.
Oh my god. No,
And
unrelated.
ass.
Okay, we were doing the companions quest the other day with Jasper, and we finished it. And you know the part where Codlac dies?
Yeah.
Well, for some reason, when we walked in, and Codlac was there dead, he was butt-ass naked with his junk just out on the floor. And I had to, like, pause the stream to look at... Never mind.
You had to rearrange Codlac's body and put his dick away.
I don't know. I kind of just, like, he was kind of...
He's supposed to be wearing armor.
He was just naked. Cock was out. He died with his dick out.
Oh my god.
Like...
Okay, well,
It was a lot bigger than I expected.
I mean, he's a fierce Nord warrior.
That's
So,
true, actually.
yeah.
Yeah. There are so many uses for a woman to have a spell that affects that. I mean, like, if it was someone, like, else's, you know, then it's like, yeah. Well, actually, does the erection spell give you an erection, or does it give other people an erection?
So there's erection, and then there's erection NPC.
Jesus
Get
Christ!
fucked, Ushmi!
No, that's canon! That's fucking canon! I think you should have given him an erection before he died.
I reflect on my victory. There are lessons to be learned from Ushmik the slave hunter, buff-acquired troll's blood.
Don't actually do that, because the one thing I didn't know when I tried to cast the erection spell on someone is it doesn't, like, go through their clothes at all. They just take their cock out.
I kind of figured.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to. It's just there, you know, in case we need it.
You got your circlet back!
Yay!
Yay!
Oh god, my hair clips through it. Anyway.
That's okay. She's cute.
Okay.
She's a MILF. I almost wore my I Heart MILF shirt to lunch today. Like, I was literally putting it on, and then I looked in the mirror and I was like, oh. I went out to lunch with my mom today, and, yeah, I almost wore my like, she knows I own the shirt. Like, she doesn't care that I have an I Heart MILF shirt. But, like, it would have been weird to wear in public, probably.
You should have.
You think so?
Yeah. I fully endorse the public wearing of the I Heart MILF shirt.
Next time we go to Applebee's, maybe I'll wear it. I feel like that's a good establishment to wear it in.
We don't go to Applebee's very often.
Last time we went to Applebee's, it was when they had $1 margs, I think.
Yeah. Why is it empty?
I don't know.
And why did I just magically spawn a torch?
I don't know.
Okay, whatever.
Maybe it fell out your butthole.
That's not where I keep my torches.
Well, where do you keep them?
Wouldn't you like to know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Smells like slut in here.
What about it?
What about it? Me when I walk into the Bath and Body Works. I've had an obsession recently with Bath and Body Works. It's starting to become a problem because I'm starting to get coupons in the mail for them. So, like, there was one day where I went to Bath and Body Works 2 days in a row, and I think I might have a problem. But I smell really good. Like, David confirmed. I smell really good. Like, bro, smell me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. They had a sale, and I pulled up, and I cleared out that fucking Bath and Body Works.
Oh, let me re-favorite the dagger.
Yeah,
Oh, no, so I don't need this.
are you still just using the robes then? Like, are you not training? Because you need to get, like, 100 in every skill, right? So, like,
yes.
why are you not training armor?
Because, because I need the Magicka regeneration buff right now.
Okay. See, David would call me smelly 9 times out of 10, but I'm not smelly right now. I actually smell fucking fantastic, so, you know.
The stream not sponsored by Bath and Body Works.
Probably wear your I Love MILF shirt when you go out with your... You know, I didn't think about that possibility actually either.
Okay.
Go to college, Dad. Use your
What?
smarts.
Now I'm thinking about it. Like,
I'm supposed to
there was
figure
that one
out
time
what-
someone thought me and my mom were like sisters, and it kind of fucked me up for like 2 days.
Your mom doesn't look that old.
Can I die for
Well,
that?
there's like, do I look old?
No, most people think you look like a babby.
Not really. I think I look my age.
You keep telling yourself that.
What do you think I look like?
It depends on how you're dressed.
What's that supposed to mean?
Sometimes you look like a college freshman.
Think you can take me?
In a good way or a bad way?
You decide.
What? What does that mean?
Oh god, you can open it!
Don't you
Goodbye.
hate it? Don't you hate when they open doors? 3 out of 5 the rest skills in every category. So it doesn't have to be every skill. It's just like one in each category. That makes sense.
Yeah, no. So the magic ones we're going for, in case it isn't obvious already, is destruction, illusion, and probably restoration. And restoration is actually just because I'm gonna be honest. You can grind it on High Hrothgar. You can just stand in the ice storm.
Can you actually?
Yeah, you can just stand in the ice storm and heal yourself.
Oh my god. Yeah, that works. Okay, that works.
So if I end up doing that, it won't be on stream because it will be boring.
I don't know. Can we have a stream where we all just watch you die? That sounds actually. I'm sorry.
Wrong website again.
Whoa! I'm not here for the fucking. Listen. Porn is fine, but I'm not a freak.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I never. Did you ever like? Okay, I'm not sure if this is a universal experience or not. Did you ever have that one friend that sent like gore to you unprompted?
No, because I wasn't friends with fucking psychopaths.
You're as good as dead.
Because there was this like. I'm trying to remember if you know him or not. I don't think you do.
Oh, oops, I didn't mean to pick that up.
But I don't want to say his name because I don't want to dox this man on my fucking Skyrim stream. But like, there was this guy when I was in middle school that used to send me gore unprompted, and he also would send me like hardcore porn unprompted. Like, do you remember that GIF I showed you of the woman eating cereal out of another woman's butthole?
Yes.
Yeah, that is the same guy. Like, he sent me that, but like, I don't know. You didn't have that?
No.
Oh.
Also for the David's Death's Best of video, yeah, it'll probably happen. Eebee's gonna say some off the chain like fucking shit, and I'm gonna just have to stare at her while someone murders me. It's going to happen.
Listen. What the fuck kind of friends do you have? I mean, like, listen, I was autistic. Well, I'm still autistic.
I was about to say that last I heard that didn't just stop.
I mean, okay, well, I was autistic, and pretty much I was really bad at making friends. I'm actually still pretty bad at making friends. I have I have my online friends, but in real life I have like 3, if we don't count. Do we count David? I feel like
No, we're not friends.
Well, no, I feel like it's like cheating to count you because like we live together. You know?
Mystic Wolf, that's called masking.
No, but like, no, yeah, Cola, you're one of those 3. It's you, and then other gamers that we play Pathfinder with. But I'm not gonna just dox them live on stream either.
No, actually, yeah, no, you can turn off the autism. I lied. Yeah, you can do that.
Why hasn't anyone told me how to do that?
It's cheat code.
Oh. What's the cheat? How do I turn off my autism?
Oh,
thank you for the posture check. Now you have to check your posture too, because you're streaming with me too. Did you check your posture?
I have checked my posture.
Hell yeah. Thank you for the posture check, Satan Tofu.
Satan Tofu.
Technically, we met online. I just happened to live close enough. Yeah, literally what happened with Cola is we were all talking, and I, like, mentioned Maryland, and Cola was like, hey, yo, Maryland? And I was like, Maryland? And I was like, well, play Pathfinder 2nd Edition. And now Cola comes to my house every Thursday, or every Friday. Only works if you are biologically a male. The on and off switch is a prostate. So, like...
Yeah, you just mash the Konami code into your prostate. That's how that works.
How do I get a prostate?
Well,
I want one.
I don't think you can.
Why?
Well, you know. I don't know.
I know what I want
Life
for
is
Christmas
good. You
now.
know what you want for Christmas.
Yeah, I don't want a twink for Christmas anymore. I want a prostate so I can turn off my autism and my ADHD.
Okay, we'll see if they have that.
Okay, you can probably get it at Costco.
I'll check
You can
Black
get everything
Friday.
at Costco. Did I tell you guys how I had an emotional reaction to Costco's existence? I had
Need a
never
ride?
went to Costco before.
Where do you want to go?
And I went to a Costco just to like
Climb and
dick
back, and
around
we'll be
because I
off.
work from home now. And the thing is like
You ever
the
met
thing
one of
is
them
most of the time I'm like teaching all day or doing like admin work for my business. But there are some days where I have a bunch of people last minute cancel. Like today. Today I worked from fucking 9:30 to 11:30 and then I worked from 4 to 6 because I had a shit ton of people cancel. So like I have days like that sometimes where it's like, damn, that's crazy. And so I like went to Costco just for fun. Like, just to, like, I just wanted to see what it was all about. I just wanted to go walk around, you know? I probably look like a fucking weirdo just walking around Costco with my little, like, Winnie the Pooh backpack.
At any point while there, did you go, we're Costco guys?
I did think about it. Like, if we get a Costco membership, can we do that?
No.
We're Costco guys.
Listen, I will die before anyone convinces me to eat whatever the fuck a chicken bake is. I'm sorry.
I want to eat a chicken bake.
That sounds awful.
I don't want, you don't know what it is.
My understanding is it's just kind of a log of chicken.
No, there's like a bread thing.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm actually fine.
It's like, I don't know what it's like, actually. I don't have a membership. I didn't get to try it. But anyway, I went to Costco, and I was really mystified by everything in there. I don't know what it was, but something about... My autism really likes big, fancy grocery stores. I don't know what it is, but, like... Something about, like, Costco, BJ's, Sam's Club, they please me. I don't know why. But then I asked David if we could get a Costco membership, and he said no, because we're moving in a few months, so it didn't make any sense to get a Costco membership. Which, like, logically makes sense. But then I started crying.
She did cry. I had to console her. And be like, it's okay, Costco will still be there.
I just really wanted to go to Costco.
I don't know why.
Looking back on it, I don't understand why I had such a visceral emotional reaction, because I was, like, sobbing. Like, stuffy nose.
You were sobbing, and you were like, but it's just really cool, and they have like big boxes of gummies, and you can buy a lamb, and I'm like, what the fuck are you on about?
I just really want to go to Costco.
Someone.
What the fuck?
Free this
Help
person.
me.
Why is she French? Did anyone else catch that?
Wait, did she get freed and then just immediately drink skooma?
Yeah. Oh god!
Damn, me too, girl. Wait, Costco has an exclusive Mountain Dew flavor? Baby.
No, we're not going to Costco.
Why don't they sell day passes anymore? That's fucked up.
At long last.
I don't know, like, why can't I just go hang out there? Why do I have to be a member? They, like, scan your membership card. Like, I can't just go there and walk around anymore because I'm not a member. They make me scan my card. Which I don't have.
This is where I would put my... Oh, I have rock joint.
Haha, you have diseases.
Oh.
Can I put that on my throne?
Just a Costco membership?
Yeah. Like, if I put a Costco membership on my throne and made it, like, a crowdfund thing.
I mean, there's nothing stopping you, I guess.
I'm gonna do it.
Oh, no.
Like, listen, I would never forget one of my other VTuber friends being like, yeah, my chat bought me, like, and she showed me it was, like, really cute, like, stockings, like, knee-high socks, and, like, some of it was, like, lingerie type stuff, and I was like, we must have very different audiences, because the gifts my audience bought me was edible rocks and wax melts and a mogus.
Buy me the lingerie.
I mean, listen, you'd eat, I'll be real. The Amogus plush is doing good. Jetmir sometimes bats it around sometimes. So, you know.
Okay.
What are we doing, David? What the fuck are we doing? I got distracted by the prostate talk in Costco.
So we're looking for the 6th house Bellhammer.
Okay.
Which has been downgraded from key item in Morrowind to random bullshit in Bandit Cave.
Happens.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, at least we're near the Morrowind. Yes, I would wear the lingerie. What do you think I am, a coward? Anyway,
It's bold of you to assume he hasn't already.
I know what I've got. Anyway.
He's kind of a whore. Sorry, I'm just being honest.
Didn't need to call me out.
I'm just being honest. Not like whore derogatory, whore affectionate. What? You don't like the mouse pad with my face on it?
I'm not going to expose you as to why I don't want to use that, but, no.
Is it 'cause I'm greasy?
Yes.
My hands are kind of greasy.
There's, like, a grease stain on it.
Okay, you
and
didn't have to say that! It makes it look like I have 5 o'clock shadow.
It kind of does.
No, it's 'cause I eat at my desk a lot.
It is, I know, but I'm just like, nah, we're not doing this.
I'm sorry, I'm so greasy.
It's okay.
Now everyone knows I'm greasy.
I'm pretty sure they already assumed.
Oh.
Have you met you?
No, actually.
Oh, well. I have, and you're delightful.
Ah.
But you're also a little greasy.
Oh. We all need a David in our lives. Yeah, if David wasn't in my life, I don't know if I'd remember to drink water, like, ever. And I think I would only eat, like, probably, like, those little Eggo waffles
Oh, God.
for
Oh.
the rest of my life.
Oh, no. Okay, alright, hold on.
Yeah, if I don't wash my hair every day, listen, I'm so sick of people
There we
on
go.
TikTok saying, you need to wash your hair every other day. You don't need to wash it every day. Well, some of us have thin hair, fucking Suzanne.
That shit-
And some of us, if we don't wash our hair every day, we look like a little slime ball. Like, if I don't wash my hair every day, I feel icky.
I mean, I've got long hair, and that shit gets greasy over the course of, like, 12 fucking
Yeah.
hours. I'm like,
Well,
no.
I work out every day. Sometimes I work out, like, twice, 3 times a day even sometimes. So, like, I'm greasy.
So anyway, what we're doing
Right.
is we're looking for the 6th house bellhammer, which is the last thing we need for Aryan to let us into the museum.
Okay.
There's also a green ninja plush here for some reason.
Wait, I want it. Can
Well,
you get the
I picked
ninja?
it up. I picked it up
Wait,
already.
I didn't see it. No, show it to me.
Uh,
Oh, that's so cute. Thank you, Satan. I appreciate you. Do you need to hydrate, David? Actually, no.
Oh, God, I forgot the trap.
You don't get a choice. You're in the driver's seat. You have to hydrate.
Okay, give me 1 second.
No, you have to hydrate now.
No, give me one.
You have to do it now.
Ah,
Now. Now.
she's beating me. Help! Someone help!
I am hitting him with a water bottle, but lovingly and affectionately. The ninja's rotund. He kind of thick, but I like that about him.
Okay, so here's the issue. Oh my God, there he is.
Oh my God, I know him.
No,
That's
okay.
my friend.
We're a little over encumbered.
friend.
We're gonna need to drop some things.
Over cucumbered.
It's
You
fine
can't say
though.
over encumbered. You have to say over cucumbered.
Hey, I'm the one who started that.
Are
What?
you just a toddler? You sobbed and you couldn't have something you wanted, and you can't make sure.
Yes.
I don't.
Yes.
We did joke about how well you were at work all day. I just did my paint by numbers and spun around for a little bit. I really do feel like I'm at my, like, stay-at-home, like, wife era, just because it's like I'm still working, usually at least 6 hours a day, but that's the thing, sometimes I have days like today where, like, lessons, like, don't get filled, or people last minute cancel, then I have time on my hands, and then I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go clean, oh, I'm gonna go make the bed, and I feel like a little housewife, and I'm kind of really enjoying it. So, like, I'm still working, but I like to roleplay that I, like, am a stay-at-home wife, and then I asked David for money, and then David says, I don't have any fucking money. And then I'm like, okay.
I've got student loans, alright?
Oh! Are you ready for the noise?
Oh, God.
That's the noise! Do you like the noise?
That's a good noise.
That's the noise! Welcome in, Reddit! Hello! Welcome! Hello! If Mom could shout out, then would you? I appreciate it. How is your stream, gamer? Welcome to the stream. If you are new in town, oh, man, thank you so much for the follow. You know, oh, you didn't know about my follower sound?
No, I know about it. I just
It's
forgot.
Yandere Dev saying Gaslight Gatekeep Girl Boss.
I thought it was Aryan at first. Like,
Do you think Arya would say Gaslight Gatekeep Girl Boss?
I think he would, but I think you'd
Gaslight.
feel awkward about it.
What was it?
Excellent.
Yes, curator. I think you need
Yes,
to
I have
gaslight
just the
Gatekeep
place
Girl
for this.
Boss.
Thank you.
I have to
Here's
raid
your
and run.
reward.
Oh, that's okay, gamer. I'm sorry your mic died, but thank you for the
phenomenal.
follow.
Let
You
me
know,
have a
Gaslight
look.
Gatekeep Girl Boss, and thank
Ah,
you for the
yes.
raid. But welcome
Exactly
in,
as
new gamers,
described.
if you are new in town.
Good work.
Hi,
Here's
my
your
name is
pay.
Eebee Games. I like Skyrim, but I'm really bad at Skyrim. Specifically, this mod
Very good.
called
And in
Legacy of the
excellent condition, it
Dragonborn.
seems. Wonderful.
So my boyfriend is here on my hat to show us how to
That
do
is
it
very
correctly.
impressive, my friend.
So we can fill the
You are
museum up
certainly
in an
more than a
appropriate
mere
manner
treasure
and not
hunter.
just run around Skyrim in
Which
circles,
brings
because
me
that's
to my
kind of
next
what we do.
proposal.
My qualifications are that I've played Skyrim for 2,000 hours and I don't get lost walking down a
person
hallway.
of your caliber
I
who
mean,
can dedicate
listen, some of
themselves
the
to
hallways look
uncovering
all
more
the
lost
same.
artifacts and relics on their own, while
There
are
contributing
two
my research
directions.
efforts.
Yeah, but like,
And you have
sometimes
proven
there's
yourself
4.
more than capable of the job.
Yeah,
That's where
and...
they get me.
Special
Okay.
arrangement could work.
Instead
All
of me
right.
simply
I feel attacked
buying
right
them
now.
and
Yeah, as you should.
perhaps you could bring them
That's
to
what's
me.
happening. I'm attacking you.
Listen,
I'll
women
pay you
get
an
scared.
occasional finder's fee, and
I'm
will
not
safeguard your
scared.
collection for you.
It's more
You'll be
so.
able to access any and all of your
You
collectible
just keep
assets,
walking
and
straight.
remain
It's not
Listen,
hard.
safe
It's
in
not
your
like I see a
absence.
compass. I'm like, ah!
Excellent.
That is what you
Well,
did to the
give me
tofu
10
once.
separate
I mean, I did get a little bit freaked out. Well, listen. If when you're cooking, watching a cooking video, and out of nowhere they bring out a block of tofu,
This
it's a
building
little
was once
jarring
called
when
Dairy
it's
and
like
Wine.
something that you
Built as
didn't
a
think was gonna have
dedicated
tofu in it.
house.
Okay,
The patron
but like, I'm not scared.
After
I
the
just
White
am
Oak concorded,
directionally
however, the
challenged.
statue was moved and the temple
Oh, I forgot about the fucking.
Yeah, you get a
You
you won.
Yay.
You won the game.
All right. What
course,
do
I
we
We
follow?
did it. We legacied the Dragonborn.
Oh boy. All right. Well, bye everyone. Do we follow Aryan for the 10 Septim tour, or do we just keep going?
We can just keep going.
Okay, bye Aryan.
Bye, Ian.
You keep talking to yourself.
Tofu is delicious if you know how to prepare it. No, I had fried tofu and I thought it was pretty good. But for a while, I used to not like tofu because I thought you just ate it raw
There was
with like nothing on it. And like you can do that, but I didn't like that.
the joke here is that we were watching TikToks and there was a cooking one and they were making stir fry and they were like, you know, you get your broccoli, here's some soy sauce. You grab a block of extra firm tofu and Eevee goes, ah, and scrolls immediately. And I'm like, what the fuck was that
don't
about?
know. I just wasn't emotionally, physically, mentally, sexually ready for the tofu.
What part
okay?
of the tofu required you to be sexually prepared?
I mean, listen, it's kind of slimy. Why do you all want to eat me? I'm sorry. See, don't worry, tofu. I won't eat you because I'm afraid of you.
She will, however, scream and throw you at a wall.
That's not nice. I didn't throw it at a wall. I just screamed.
Yeah, but if I were to hand you tofu, I think that's what you would do with it.
I mean, listen, like, I'm trying to think.
You have no defense. All right.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna get a few things rolling here.
Thanks, I guess. I don't know what it was, but tofu just like it. Listen, it's not like it's one of those things where it's like I see a new food, I'm like, oh my god, ew, disgusting. It just, I don't know why. I genuinely don't know, but I just screamed, and I don't know why. What are we doing, David?
We're
Are we
putting the
building
wolf
displays?
display up.
Hello, Mr. Wolf.
I didn't kill enough goats to do the goat display,
Well, you
so
gotta
we're not
start
doing
killing
that.
Some goats.
I'm going to.
Mhm.
And then we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna go downstairs. We're gonna go to the Dragonborn gallery. Because we need to start the quest.
She dragging on my Born Till I gallery.
What the fuck? Oh wait, hold on. This is the wrong hallway. No one call me out.
Hi, David.
Hi, P Graph G. I forgot the G at first. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Actually, no, it's not okay.
Ah,
You
shit.
will never be forgiven, and you're gonna go to heck.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
That's the tism, probably. Yeah. Yeah. See, haha, David, you went the wrong way. Haha. Isn't that so funny? Isn't that so funny, Goofy? Ha 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 ha. Ha. Why are you laughing at? Stop laughing at me.
Because you're goofy.
Hi, Fox. Welcome in, gamer. Listen, I will call you whatever you want me to call you, but also, I had a few viewers that their names were words, but because of the capitalization, I just said their names incorrectly for like 2 years, and then no one... I've said a lot of viewers' names incorrectly for like years, and then they wouldn't be like, oh yeah, by the way, it's this, until like 2 years later, I'd be like, why didn't you just tell me? To be fair, I do have a few people that I teach that pronounce my name wrong, and like
How do they pronounce your name wrong?
they call me Evie.
Evie.
Yeah, instead of Eevee.
Ah, well.
And it's like, they're all really sweet.
It's
So
not
I don't-
malicious,
No,
so,
it's not
you
malicious,
know.
and I don't really mind it that much because like Eevee isn't my real name. You know, it's my VTuber
Wait, it's
name.
not?
No.
I've been lied to.
Games isn't my last name either.
Wait, it's not?
No.
I want a divorce.
Well, I'm taking Jetmir.
No, you're not. I cleaned the litter box. He's mine.
No, but like it's not malicious, right? It's just, you know, but it's like one of those
Ariane.
things where it's like
Good
I
to
just
see
never
you
said anything.
Okay,
And what?
I'm gonna do this so I don't accidentally choose it later. We're not seducing Arya.
Why not?
Because you'll get demonetized.
That hasn't hasn't stopped me before.
Okay, anyway.
Listen, I'm a small streamer. I'm not
Also-
in for the money. I just want to kiss men.
There we go. What's the story with the hidden room? I'm gonna
Hall of
skip this. It's the Hall of
Secrets.
Secrets. We're gonna put weird shit down there. It's
Yeah.
fine.
I installed
Anyway.
relics there. I'll go.
But yeah,
And I
what was I
plan
talking
on
about?
taking
Who
a
knows?
tour down there.
Oh yes, I have in fact.
Yeah,
I'll mark a
but
location.
that's the thing is, it's just like I
wait a
remember now.
minute.
It's
Check that
just
with
like
the
one of those things
Okay.
where it's like it's been happening for so long. I just haven't felt like correcting anyone because I feel like it'd be like I feel like it'd be awkward. Just like, hey, by the way, you know what I mean? Like I feel like it'd be weird at this point. You know, kiss men. Did everyone? No, that's normal actually. This is standard Eebee games behavior.
Yeah,
Actually,
get
I feel
used
like
to it.
I normally talk about kissing women, so maybe kissing men.
I don't know. There's a few men where in this game where you're just like, yes, yes.
I do start
yeah,
barking when Brynjolf shows up.
You
that's
do,
true.
and you also get pretty damn close for Aryan.
Listen, something about elf twinks just like gets me going, bro.
You're-
Is your man a good kisser? I don't know.
What do you mean you don't? I mean, I guess it's better than no, but still.
I'd say 5 out of 7.
A perfect score.
Yeah, there you go, buddy. There you go.
Okay, so we're gonna run around Solitude real quick, and we're going to
David,
procure some things.
do I get hose?
No, absolutely not.
Can I get hose?
You've tried; it's never worked.
You know, I'm gonna. If it can remind me.
What?
Do you wear wigs? Will you wear wigs? When will you wear wigs?
Oh my
5
god.
out of 7. Yeah, we'll go with that. Oh, there's another cat. Wait.
Oh. Oh, you're a nice cat.
Sapphire! Oh
Petting
my
your cat is an important
God.
ritual that should be performed often in an effort
I
to
haven't
keep
seen
you.
that one.
Oh, what a good cat.
Good kitty. Yeah,
Okay.
you can adopt a cat, by the way. There's a cat store in White Run. Like turn around.
What?
Right, no, to the right. There's a cat bed right there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
Who the fuck are you?
that's Una. That's an unusual gem.
You didn't see shit.
Are you feeling all right?
I mean, didn't it say take, not steal?
It did.
Yeah.
Ah,
Riz
I
increased
forgot
it.
you've renamed speech to Riz.
Yeah. It's your Riz skill.
Oh my god.
It's your Riz skill.
Okay, everyone prepare to laugh at me while I failed a lockpick real quick. Wait, where'd it go?
What?
What?
What are you looking for?
There's usually a display case with gloves right here.
Oh.
Okay, you must have a mod installed that moves it.
Probably. David, I have a lot of mods installed.
Okay, we'll find it later.
I have like 850, I think.
That's fine, we'll work it out. Where's
They're
the court
rookie
wizard?
numbers, really.
Yeah, no, honestly, like, you should have a mod that removes it, adds it, moves it, and then fucking puts it back.
Be quick. I have little patience for
Wake her
mundane
the fuck
concern.
up.
Wake up.
Take a look.
Wake up, samurai. What are you buying?
36 lessons of Vivek.
Are you just buying all the books
Yes.
that we need?
Yes.
That's honestly kind of valid, actually. I don't know, I kind of... Something about collecting the books in this game makes my brain go burr. Like, oh, bye, Grab. Thank you so much for hanging out, gamer. I don't know, but, like, collecting the books makes my brain go burr.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I get that I could just buy them, but, like, I like seeing... Like one of my favorite parts of this mod is the library.
Take
You know
care
what
of
I mean?
yourself and
So,
take
yes,
care
you
of
could do that, but the issue is that not all of them spawn naturally.
Mm.
Including all 36 sermons of Vivek.
Ew.
Oh my god, excuse me, I don't know what that was.
I do.
Yeah?
Disgusting. No.
Oh, I'm being cyberbullied.
Yeah. I'm gonna wait. This
We're
is-
on the internet, it's cyberbullying.
But I'm sitting next to
Yeah,
you.
but like it's still on the internet.
Just
I've
turn
got
off
what I
the
came
computer. No.
Oh my god.
Just turn off the computer. Okay, where to next?
Okay, next is to the Chapel of the Eight Divines.
Chapel Rome?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
I have a friend who I'm gonna throw him under the bus right now at work. He's walking in. He's like, you know who I really liked, like whose music I really liked that I didn't think I would. Chappelle Roan. And me and the 5 other people in the office just stared at him and were like, "The fuck did you just say?"
I mean, I'm gonna be really honest. Bro, David has more friends than I do.
Yeah, okay, so, by the way,
David works in an office. I work from home.
minor change of plans. We're robbing the Thalmor real quick.
Oh, okay, that's cool. No, but like...
Fuck you, give me your harp.
To be honest, until I heard her do the whole, my name's Chapel Road, I'm your favorite artist, I didn't know how to say her name. And I was just, like, too afraid to ask.
Okay, you know, that's fair. I did sit around misinterpreting hot to go for a very long time.
Yeah, wait, me and David... when me and David listened to Hot to Go...
Well, no.
Hot to Go
I only...
He heard the spelling part.
Yeah, I only heard it in TikTok audios, so I would think to myself... I thought to myself for a really long time, I'm like, what the fuck does Hotogo mean?
He thought they were... Because he just heard the spelling, and he's like, Hotogo? Hotogo? I was like, no, David, it's Hot to Go. And he was like, oh. I do have friends. We talked about that earlier. I have, like, 3. That's it.
She's lying to you.
No, I do. We're gonna see him tomorrow for Pathfinder.
I don't need friends. They disappoint me.
Being old's not so bad.
What was that from?
It's that old, like...
I don't need friends. Oh, I remember.
Yeah.
Oh
Okay.
my god.
Now we're getting all the Shrines of the Divines, by the way, so you can get all of them here except
I
for
didn't know that.
Talos.
Well, Talos, you can just go to Whiterun, right?
Yes, and we
Yeah.
will eventually. But then we get Arcay, and then there's a chest over here, and then there's the Sword of the Crusader.
Jesus Christ, you are zooming.
So that starts Guardians of the Divine. I'm not going to hunt these down from memory. I am going to get the quest marker. And then we'll get the ring that opens all of them later. We'll get the Signet ring.
Is this what it's like to not have ADHD?
We can't say for sure I don't, but the doctors aren't sure, so we're just gonna keep on keeping on.
I'm just like so impressed how you're staying focused all this time. Like you just like wham bam, like whoa. You know what I mean? Like you're just cooking.
Yeah, I just
Man.
that. This is what happens when you're just like Skyrim.
What is it called when you take possessions of others without their consent?
I'm sure you'll find what you need here.
Extended borrowing.
Yeah.
Aaron said you got here just
Yeah,
before
it's
the
ADHD fixation.
Take a look.
I feel like David, listen. I feel like David has like the different like type of ADHD. Like he hyperfixates, and I still hyperfixate to a like different degree, but like he like hyperfocuses to the way where bro is just zoning. You know what I mean? I got the TISM and ADHD, but David just has the ADHD, the adhood. What sucks about the Guardians of the Dynamo quest is there's no set place for the book. Yeah, that fucking annoys me. Whenever there's a quest where it's like, go find this. Oh, okay. We're not gonna give you the quest marker though. Death.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be keeping an eye out for the book. But we're not gonna be able to get it right away.
Go buy a, wait, what's that rock called?
Pay Night.
Pay Night. Is it bad that I read it as Pay Nighty?
I like that better actually. Let's call it that. You don't have quarried stone either. All right, that's fine.
No building for you. She's got weapons though.
She does, but I can pick most of those up naturally.
Okay.
That's
That's fair.
Yeah?
Wah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I got. Do you want to go pet that other cat?
No, that cat was mean to me.
Do you want to go see Misty Sky in the Winking Skeever?
I do not want to see Misty Sky
Why
or
don't
the
you
Winking
want to go
Skeever.
see Misty Sky?
Because I just don't like Misty Sky.
Why don't you like Misty Sky?
Yes. Next question.
David hates women.
That is not what I
I
said.
can't fucking believe this.
I'm just not a fan of Misty Sky.
And why is that?
Yep. Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is it because she's a woman?
It would not be because she's a woman.
And what is it?
She's just kind of annoying. I'm gonna throw this disclaimer out there. This would be a lot easier if I brought companions with me. I'm
So
not
you
gonna
need
do
Misty
that.
Sky.
No, I'm not.
So you need Misty
I'm not
Sky
bringing a
and
single.
the power of Sexcalibur.
I'm not bringing a single companion with me.
Why?
They annoy the ever living hell out of me.
Do I count as one of your companions?
No.
Oh, okay. Do I annoy the ever-living hell out
Well,
of
that's
you?
why you're not a companion. Because you don't. Also, I'm reading all these
Yay.
books for a reason.
Why?
Because 2 reasons. One, no, don't cancel. I
Let's
just
cancel
got here.
David!
Ah.
Goodbye, David.
So I'm reading these for 2 reasons anyway.
more David.
One is to level up my Riz. Reading does that, apparently. 2 is there is a research bench in the library, and the more books you read, the more research points you have.
Yeah, I never quite figured out how to do, like, the research stuff, the archaeology stuff, shit like that.
I'm gonna be honest with you, the research thing is not going to be useful at all until we are later in the game, because it is going to keep sending us for relics that are like, the Archmage's robes, and it's like, oh, okay, I'll just go casually complete an entire quest line, thank
Yeah.
you.
That makes sense. Why am I so eepy? I'm eepy. Although I went to bed kind of late last night. I think it was because I thought I was going to take a nap today, and then I didn't.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to bed late today because I have a half day at work tomorrow.
Wait, why do you have a half day?
Because they wanted us to have an extra good long weekend.
Aw, that's nice. I think I work all day tomorrow. I don't know. Like, I had a few people ask me if I was going to take Labor Day off, and I was like, no.
We're also doing really well on deadlines, so
Yeah,
it's...
that makes sense. Can we talk about what you do for work, but in the really silly way we talked about earlier? Because I thought it would be funny.
No, all I can really say is, I make video games that you might have heard of, but I can't tell you which ones.
Yeah.
It's not Skyrim. Because I know that's everyone's first question is, do you work for Bethesda? The answer is no.
Like, when David was looking for jobs, we were literally like, you can't work at Bethesda because I will become so fucking annoying. I feel like if, like, you went to go work for Bethesda and they did, like, a background check on you and they found me, I feel like they would, like, call the police.
Video game studios don't, like, background check people normally. No, I don't work at... Listen, I will talk a lot of shit about BioWare. I don't work at BioWare either. Listen, okay, I can't
What's,
tell
like,
you
the
how I
biggest
know this,
hint
but
you
working
can
at
give?
Bethesda does suck ass.
I mean, I know how you know that.
Confirmed from several inside sources. It's not a good time.
Are you allowed to say that on the internet?
Well, I'm not saying who.
But you did
Actually,
say-
most of them don't work there anymore, so it's fine.
But you did... Anyway. It's not Gearbox. If we guess it, will you tell us? Maybe. It depends on... Because it's like... It's one of those things where it's like... It's not like it's like... David works at local, family-owned small business. Like, it's like...
Just with the disclaimer, views expressed here are my own and do not reflect on my employer or anyone associated with them.
Yes.
Anyway, check out and pre-order Bivilization 7.
That was my bit!
It is not Obsidian. I fucking love Obsidian. I am very much looking forward to Avowed, and I loved the Pillars of Eternity games.
Can I now, like, talk about Civilization, Bevan?
No.
No, because I just find
No,
it...
you can't. Just don't... I don't know what you're gonna say.
I was just gonna say, I hate strategy games.
Yeah, you're real bad at it.
Like, that's why it works perfectly. Because if you work for, like, Bethesda, I'd be so fucking annoying. But then you come home and you say something about Civilization Bevan, I'm just like, damn, that's crazy.
Here's the thing: is it's not
Anyway.
even it's not even that hard to guess, because like if you're friends with me on Steam, my top 3 played games are Civ 5, Civ 6, and XCOM 2, and like it's not even close.
Okay, I have thought about doing EU4 just because people told me I could have a harem in it. So I was like,
You can in CK3 as well. The Kingdom Paradox's games are kind of fun.
that's what people make
Yeah, they make
City
City
right?
Skylines.
I like City Skylines because I like funneling all the poop into someone's house because I think it's funny.
No,
That's how I play City Skylines.
Paradox makes what I lovingly refer to as just map games.
I use strategy when you just murder stuff. That's what I do. They have harems, but it's just not you. Wait, what do you mean?
Harems.
Am I the harem?
No, harems do exist. You just can't have a harem in EU4.
Why?
I don't know. Ask
Why
Paradox.
not? Oh, I want to look at more of the Beyond Skyrim stuff. Are we still... Yeah, they finished a bunch of stuff. Is Sky Oblivion still happening?
Sky Oblivion, as far as I know, is still happening. Yeah.
No, but wasn't there like a leak or something?
No,
Or,
I mean they did a big announcement like 2 weeks ago where they were showing off some quests.
No, but didn't Bethesda say that they were gonna make their own Oblivion? Like,
No, there was a leak saying that they were going to, but like I don't believe it.
probably Sky Oblivion's gonna do it better than they would.
I don't listen. I have no like. This isn't me being like my sword. This is just my opinion. I don't think
Yeah.
they would remake Oblivion.
You don't think so?
No.
It's gonna be released in 2025. It's mostly done. I will play Sky Oblivion. Like I'm so ready to play. Like normal Oblivion, I couldn't figure out. But like I'll play Sky Oblivion.
Normal Oblivion is just plagued by a really shitty character
Yeah,
like
and I'm just
progression
stupid.
system. The level up system is bad.
Thank God Eebee is not a shitty planner in real life. What do you mean you don't want 8 roundabouts on one road and all your shit funneled into the community shit pit?
Don't lie, you don't know
What do
how
you
roundabouts work.
I know perfectly well how roundabouts work. What do you mean?
I don't think you used a single one when you played Cities.
No, I did use a single one, but then I just connected them all to each other to make a roundabout road. And it was just a straight line of nothing but fucking roundabouts. Yeah. I know how to, like, drive them. You go in the roundabout, and you go round and about, and then you go... and then you go... When you need to go, you go.
Yeah.
About.
You go round and about.
Yeah!
Okay.
Is that what it is? Like, that makes sense to me. Does it make sense to you?
No.
Maybe you're just a hater. Have you considered that?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you the devil's advisor for punishment? You know, I probably could be. Like, I'd do a good job. Why are there spears, katanas, and halberds in Morrowind, but not in Oblivion or Skyrim? I want a spear, bro.
Okay, alright, there's a reason for this, actually. So first of all, the katanas are, Akaviri. And Akavir is to the east. So that's where all the katanas are from.
Oh, shit.
Now for the
Wait,
spears...
no, she had stuff.
I'll loot her in a second. I need to kill this other guy. What are you... Bro, what are you doing? Now, as for the spears and halberds, this is stupid, but this is the lore reason.
Okay.
The lore reason is that
I
the
love lore.
Empire and Cyrodiil never adopted spears or halberds because they do not practice formation fighting due to the existence of destruction magic. So what that means is, like, in regular, like, medieval wars, you would see, like, rows of dudes and they would clash on the battlefield. That doesn't really work when your opponent can just throw a fireball and blow up the entire line. So they don't do that, and that's what spears are mostly used for, that and deflecting against cavalry charges. So they just don't use them and instead use swords focused on singular combat.
That's dumb as fuck. God damn it, Tom.
However, the reason they exist in Morrowind, and they also exist in Blackmarsh, it's been confirmed, is because there are a lot of creatures there in the swamps and the ashlands that carry diseases or are venomous, and so you want to keep them at a distance because a single bite could kill you. So that's why they have spears and the rest of the world doesn't. Now, I would like to argue that's fucking stupid. Everyone would still use a spear.
Yeah, you can do one. Like,
Because it's an easy to make and utilize weapon.
I want a spear. I have a spear.
Sure.
Yay.
Halberds also same thing. They would definitely still have them in for some reason.
There's something very funny to me about a line of wizards holding like a bunch of like wards up, and then someone just comes over and bonks them on the head.
Okay, I'm gonna cheat real quick, by the way, because I don't want to Skyrim. I don't want to Skyrim mountain climb. This is gonna take forever.
Can you go in third person for that? Oh no, I wanted to watch you ascend. Wait.
No, okay. I don't want to fucking jump like a mountain goat just to get up here. This is a shrine of the Magna G. Yay.
But first you
Anyway.
say sword is supreme. Yeah, not gonna lie, half the premise of some of the fight scenes in my novel is just gonna be like, this is a bad idea.
And then they also had to get rid of the like axe skill and the spear skill.
Why can't I have a spear? Why don't give Eebee a spear?
You can have a spear.
I want a big stick.
Okay.
Yay.
Yeah. Okay. So like Yes, you're all completely correct. There are still reasons to use a spear. This is the reason that Todd gave. I'm also going to throw out there that after Morrowind, they removed levitation magic because they're like, no one uses it because it's illegal now. Hi, so this is a bandit who breaks the law regularly. If he were a wizard, I don't think he'd give a fuck.
Are they implying you can't be a bandit and a wizard?
So the real reason they removed it is because now cities are instanced, and if you were to fly over them without loading into them, you would just see empty boxes.
Watch the magic.
Huh.
But yeah, the lore reason is just levitation magic is illegal.
See, that's the thing. It goes back to what I said earlier. Sometimes I think my world building is bad, and then I remember that Bethesda doesn't hire writers.
They don't, and I think it's ridiculous.
I would trust me with the spear. Would you trust me with the spear?
We have a sword wall. If I didn't trust you with a spear, I would have
That's
already made a
true.
mistake.
Yeah, we have a wall of swords. I think I've shown it before, but I can maybe show it again. We're gonna have to take the sword wall down because we're gonna move soon. But we do have a wall of swords, but it doesn't have a spear. Maybe we should get a spear at the Renaissance Festival.
Maybe. I mean, if you have spear money.
I don't know if I have spear money, though. I'm supposed to save up for a car.
Well, I don't have spear money. I have student loans.
Well, I guess I could put off buying a car to buy a spear.
Priority.
Yeah, I feel like that's, financially sound.
I own a spear for home
I
defense.
mean, I work from home. Do I really need a car? No, but I'm a woman that works from home alone, right? You're at work most of the time.
So you need a
I'm not
spear
allowed to
for
buy a
home
gun,
defense?
so I need to buy a spear. So, like, if someone tries to come get me, then I can just pointy point, stabby stab. I feel like spear is more realistic for me than a car.
Oh, okay.
What am I gonna do with the car? Spend all my money going to buy coffee in the middle of the day when I don't need to?
You don't drink coffee.
No. I'm gonna buy my little treat.
See, Cola, you own a 40-pound cannon loaded with grape shot for home defense, as is your God-given right. Okay.
It's all for home defense. Yeah.
I would like a Lancer from Gears of War for home defense purposes.
I mean, that's valid. Favorite medieval weapon? Pole arms are pretty cool. I like pole arms. I like... Let me see. What's the name of the thingy? The thing where it's a stick and there's a spinny ball on it?
That is a flail.
Flail. I like flails too. I like the spinny ball filled with spikes. I think that's neat. A dwarven crossbow for self-defense, since that's what the teacher intended.
Oh my god. For like actual use medieval weapon wise, I just think the good old fashioned arming sword is real cool. As for like fantasy bullshit, I think meteor hammers are cool as fuck.
Meteor hammers are cool as shit. Hi, Morgan! Oh, that's throwing X for home defense. Welcome in, gamers who just came in, by the way.
I'm
Why am I sliding?
I'm gonna throw
by
my
the way?
dad under the bus real quick. He used to be a plumber, and he would do.
Why am I going away? Look,
Oh.
it's like only half of me on the screen. Can you alt tab and put me back?
No.
Please? It's bothering me.
No, because I think the game crashed. Oh wait, no, okay, there it goes.
Can you alt tab? Put me back. Put me back. Let's just slide me. Yeah. Thank you.
There you go.
Yay. I don't know. I remember I did the throwing axes at the Renaissance Fair.
I was
and
real bad at it.
No, everyone made fun of us. Because apparently we're not good at throwing.
We're not.
And we got bullied. And I kind of like... I know it's like they're trying to be in character, but it was one of those things I was like... Okay. Fine, I guess. You know, like... I don't know. You know, like I'm so fucking sensitive. I remember when I was in music school, we had to go to this like music educators convention or some shit. And one of the people, and it's in like it was in like Inner Harbor, which if you're from Baltimore or even really just from Maryland, you know where Inner Harbor is. It's like downtown in the city. And basically, we were thinking about like where to go get food after this teacher convention thing. So it's all like people, you know, from my college and like my professors and stuff. And one kid suggested to go to fucking Dick's Last Resort. And I literally was like, I didn't say anything but deep down inside I was like, I would cry. I would fucking I couldn't do it. I'm so fucking sensitive, bro. Which is weird because, like, I've gotten fucking death threats on the internet, and, like, that I can just, like, laugh it off. But if you're mean to me in real life, I'll just start crying, bro. Welcome in, gaming.
Side note, yes, I have the pillars here memorized. No, we're not going to talk about it.
I think a lot of people do. I don't have them memorized, but I always second guess it. There should be a safe word for stuff like that. Yeah, like, I feel like when you say safe word, people immediately think of, like, BDSM. But, like, there's a lot of, like, cool roleplay experiences where people just want to, like, exist in the moment and watch other people and not necessarily be a part of it. Because I remember with, like, talking about, like, the Galactic Star Cruiser stuff, where we talked about the Galactic Star Cruiser a while back, is there were a lot of people where it's, like, they didn't want to be, like, involved in the story directly, but they had a good time just, like, chilling and watching other people do their thing, you know? Sometimes I just like watching other people do their thing. I just don't want to be put on the spot, you know? Okay.
Whoops, I grabbed a shield by accident I don't need.
You don't need that. You don't need that.
I don't need it.
Bleak falls barrow. Be bleak on my balls till I barrow.
She do.
She bleak on my balls.
Till I pharaoh?
Yeah.
Yo, what?
Sorry.
No, you're not. You're not sorry.
No.
Don't lie to the people.
No. No, I've done, I mean, we both done this dungeon a million times. It's pretty easy. This one I don't get lost in.
Surprisingly.
Well, yeah, because I've done it so many times. But sometimes half the reason I get lost is just because it's dark. Like, it's not even because I don't know where to go, it's just because the realistic lighting's too realistic and I can't fucking see anything.
I might tweak your ENB and make it a little lighter in here, also just so it's easier for everyone else to see what the fuck is going on.
Yeah, that's probably for the best. I'm just really bad at tweaking my EMB.
I'm gonna...
What is the safe word to do with burgers, drinks, smoothies, and muffins?
We're gonna... Real quick.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know what the different things in EMB mean. I just pressed a bunch of buttons until it looked nice.
There is...
What are you looking for?
Interior gamma.
My dad texted me. Ooh. Ooh.
I'll fuck about it later.
That's okay. I mean, it's not that bad, I don't think.
It's not. I just know that I'm gonna want to mess with it later, because some of these dungeons are very dark.
Kill that man.
Goodbye, Arvel the Swift.
I take pleasure in killing him.
He's kind of a rat bastard.
Yeah, he's kind of a dick. I think it's good that he died.
I think it's good that he died.
it's good that he died. Gamma radiation. Let me see. I'm looking.
What are you looking for?
I'm looking. Are you just looting all the little thingies?
Yeah, so another thing that we're going to run into, we're going to need about 41,000 gold.
That's right.
Sooner than later.
Isn't the okay? Actually, can someone? Me and David got into an argument about not.
It wasn't an argument. We just
wasn't
weren't
an
sure.
argument. It's just but like, is the house in Solitude with the collection 50,000 gold or 25,000? Because I could have sworn it was fucking 50,000. Because I remember like shitting my pants over it when we did it in the Vanya playthrough chat.
Base game, I'm like 99% sure that the Solitude house is 25,000.
It is 50k. Thank you. Yeah. So we're gonna need a lot more than 42,000.
Okay, so we're actually gonna need somewhere around 75,000.
Welcome in, by the way.
Oh god, this one's immune to lightning. Shit.
I guess you'll just have to kill yourself then.
Oh no!
Eebee's a psychopath confirmed. I mean, but you have to pay to improve the house. Oh.
Yeah, well, we're not improving the house at all. I just need to own
Yeah,
it.
I think with this mod pack though, it does have I think it is 50k just for the base though.
Okay, that's fine. I don't need to improve it at all. I just need to own the house.
Because I remember seeing that and shitting my pants.
Okay, did
Maybe
they
if
give
you
up?
cast direction on the skeleton, it'll die.
Maybe.
I mean, actually, what would happen if you did that? Would it just spawn a phantom cock for the skeleton? No, I think you should do it.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's gonna crash the game.
Well, you just saved beforehand.
No.
I think you should give the skeleton an erection.
I'm
I
not
think it'd be
giving the
funny.
skeleton an erection.
I think you should give the skeleton an erection.
No.
Why?
Because I don't want to.
Why?
Because it's not optimal to give the skeleton an erection.
How do you know that if you haven't tried?
Because I have.
Maybe there's a secret, this is a secret strategy that you just don't know.
No. This is
Yeah.
not the point of the secret
Give
tool.
the skeleton an erection.
No! Leave me alone.
If
Oh
you
god,
accidentally
I
step
got
on
stuck.
the trap, I'm gonna laugh at you, by the way. Because every time I step on the trap, the trap, you laugh at me.
You step on it on purpose. He's not close enough.
David doesn't do anything for me. All I wanted for Christmas was for him to give that skeleton a boner. He won't give the skeleton a boner because he doesn't love me.
This is gonna be. I'm gonna cheese this back and forth.
If you really love me, you would give the skeleton a boner.
I'm not giving the skeleton a boner.
Ugh!
Mostly because it's not a skeleton. It's a Draugr.
I think you should give the Draugr a boner.
No.
Can you give the Draugr a boner?
No.
May you give the Draugr
No.
a boner? What if I said please?
Try it.
David has been vilified by the community.
You could try saying please.
Please give the skeleton a boner.
No.
Well, why'd you tell me to try?
Well, because it's always. Oh, hey, he killed himself.
Well, now he's never gonna get to have a boner because he killed him. That's why he killed himself, David. He killed himself because you wouldn't give him a boner, and he'll never experience the joy of jorking his peanuts.
Good.
And that's on you.
But he'll never experience the anguish of slamming his penis in the car door.
You slammed my penis in the car door.
Where are the other Draugr? Okay, whatever. There's usually one in that little cubby, and I don't know
He
where it went.
killed himself, and it's your fault because you didn't give him a boner.
Okay.
Oh my god. He's about to... Oh damn, okay. Get his ass.
Whoops.
I'm almost out of water. Okay.
Okay.
Don't get hit.
I'm gonna get hit.
Don't get hit.
I suck at these.
Don't get hit. Don't get hit. Ah! Okay. See, I'm helping. I'm like your little, like a cheerleader.
I don't think you're helping.
No, I'm cheerleading.
Okay.
Don't get hit. Kill that man.
I'm working on it.
What if you like went to like I don't know anything about cheerleading, but like what if you showed up to like a football game and the other cheerleaders were just like not doing anything? They were just standing there and chanting like kill, kill, kill over and over, and like the other cheerleaders are trying to like do their like dance or something, and it's just a bunch of like, you know what I mean?
I think that might actually be the most effective cheer strategy. like not for like the competition aspect, but for helping your football team win. Can you imagine how unnerved you would be on the field and you just hear the like away team's cheerleaders going
kill,
kill,
kill, kill,
kill, like
It's just American high school.
oh no, I wasn't gonna go that far.
No, but like I feel like you could easily like put a cult in a cheerleading squad. You know what I mean?
Bold of you to assume that cheerleading squads are not already cults.
Listen,
From the few
okay.
cheerleaders I knew in high school, they are.
Listen, you'll never. I was so mad while fucking watching the Dallas. Did you guys watch the Dallas Cowboys thing on Netflix? Because that shit had me heated.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
The entire thing is it's just like they abuse the shit out of us. They don't pay us. We all hate ourselves and each other. We
But
feel
this
like
is-
shit all the time. We're all going to like need hip replacements by the time we're
No.
30, but this is my dream.
The thing that got me is the girl that was like, I feel like being on the Dallas Cowboys cheerleading team is the most impact I've ever had in my life. What'd you do before this? I was a neurosurgeon. Like, what? What the fuck?
Don't get me wrong, little girls deserve role models. That's great.
Yeah, like,
you
absolutely
save
based.
lives.
Absolutely based for being a neurosurgeon and a baddie. But like, maybe I'm just a hater. Maybe I'm just a hater. And that doesn't mean you can't be a cheerleader and a neurosurgeon. That's slay as fuck. But like, maybe I'm just a hater. Okay? Don't cancel me.
Canceled.
Shut up. But I feel like neurosurgeons are more important than cheerleaders.
That's a controversial take.
Like, I don't know. Is that a hot take? Is that a hot take? You truly want to be optimal, you should put your hands down between each main cast to regain your magicka faster.
Yeah, I know I
Actually, is a
could
good
do that.
point.
It's just
Yeah.
kind of annoying. I might need to.
David needs to keep his hands out, because if he puts his hand down, he's gonna start jorking his peanuts. It's a defensive measure to make sure he doesn't start jorking. He can't stop. It's a problem.
Once I start, I just can't stop.
David, please stop jacking off. Please, it's been 42 hours.
Oh my god.
Anyway.
If you have an erection that lasts more than 48 hours.
Call
Nice.
Me. Oh. This is...
I mean, it's like, here's the thing. It's fucking Bleak Falls Barrow. We
still
all
don't
know what this is.
Well, that's why... No, I'm still wondering. I'm like, do I normally say shit like this when I stream, or is it just...
Yes, you do. In fact, half the time, I'll, like, not listen to you for, like, half an hour. Like, I'll be doing something else, and then I'll tune back in, and I'll be like, what the fuck is going on? And you'll
Like,
be...
now I'm like every time I say something, now I'm, like, thinking about it.
You know what comes up a weird amount in your streams, and I didn't want to
What?
bring up? The guy, the Cannibal Cafe guy. Like, you're like, yeah, the guy who, like, ate another guy's penis all the time. Like, it comes up at least once a week.
It's not once a week, okay? It's, like, once a month.
Okay.
I don't know. I just think it's, like, listen, like, it's an interesting case.
It is, but, like, why do you keep bringing it up?
Oh, because not a lot of people cut off someone's dick and eats it. Like...
I don't know. I don't think it needs to be brought up as much as you bring it up. That's all I'm saying.
I think you're a hater.
I think you're correct.
I think you're a liar and a fraud.
Also, yes.
This is normal behavior for you? Oh, God. I think I'm kind of a freak.
A little bit.
I don't know.
You're alright, though.
Why are you with me?
I can't answer that on the internet.
Oh.
It's your sparkling personality.
Yay. Am I massive tits?
I wasn't gonna say it.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep. Straight up slurping it. And by it, I mean his penis. Usually when we eat dick, it's still attached. Yeah, I don't think you take the dick off, then put it back on.
Well, in some cases.
Oh, yeah. Honey, I left my dick at home. We gotta reschedule.
Not again.
I left my cock and balls in the Target bathroom.
George.
I don't know, I feel like that'd be... I don't know, sometimes I still think about the guy when we went to the baseball game that was just walking around, like, naked except for a hospital gown, just carrying around an IV drip in Baltimore.
Yeah, I think we might have seen an escaped hospital patient, actually.
Yeah. But, like...
I hope he's alright.
I hope he's okay, but it was just one of those things where I was just like, huh.
Listen, Rule 1 of Baltimore is mind your own damn business,
Well, yeah,
which
I
is
didn't,
why
like, say anything.
No, I know, but,
I
like,
didn't go up to him, I was like, hey, why are you naked?
Yeah, but, like, I didn't even notice him because I'm like, I'm keeping my eyes on my shit.
I mean, yeah, but, like, I don't know. I don't know why I thought of that.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Oh, dicks have a mind of their own. I didn't know, like, penis havers in the chat, rise up. But, like, I didn't know that you guys could, like, move, like, your dicks on your own. Like, I didn't know you could just go, like, like, you can't see it, but I'm doing a thing with my hand. Like, I'm, like, you didn't know you could, like, flex your penis.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, like, fine motor control, but yeah.
Like, I don't know, I just didn't see that. That's so cool. Like...
It's not that cool.
I don't know, man. Sometimes I just, like, want to know what it feels like to jork my penis.
You'll never know.
Then what's the point of being alive?
Probably something about, like, fulfilling oneself and, like...
Yeah, that's how I fulfill myself, by jorking my penis that I don't have. This is where I jork my penis if I had one. Like, unironically, I think, like, I just want to know what it would feel like to have a PP.
Well, maybe one day you'll be able to find out.
Like a cyberpunk thing, where I can, like, have it sometimes, but not all the time, you know?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Your detachable cock?
Yeah, but I also want to, like, feel things.
Okay.
Like, not just a strap-on, like, more advanced, you know? Like, I plug it in or something.
You plug it in.
I don't know, man. Have you taught David how to use 3D person controls? Do I know how to use 3D person controls? Do I use that? Deadass! Some flex their biceps. I flex my penis. You can move them. The muscle that moves them also flexes the asshole. Wait, so when you're flexing your dick, you're also flexing your asshole at the same time?
A little bit.
What if you shit yourself while you're flexing your penis?
That's a risk I'm willing to take.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh. Oh, did you mean third person controls? Oh. Oh, no, we're talking about the penis butt muscle. Oh, I thought.
I do know how
don't know
to
what the
play the
chat
game
delay
in third
is.
person. I just don't want to.
No, I thought no, cause they have the lock on thing in immersive and epic, and also they have the little tumbly bowl thing you can do, and it's pretty cool. Yeah, the tumbly.
I know it's there. It's just like
David does play immersive and epic, but he doesn't play it all the time. If
also
that makes sense. 'Cause
respectfully.
he's also playing World of Warcraft.
This is not a hard game. Like
No, like it's like you could do it, but David's kind of just here for the artifacts. While
so
you
like
were
could
having sex.
I lock onto him?
I
Yes.
was
Is it
collecting.
useful? Not really.
While you were having sex, I was filling Dragonborn Gallery.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't know. If you could have like, who's like your Skyrim baddie of choice?
No
Because
one.
we've talked about me. Why aren't we talking about you? Who's your Skyrim crush?
I don't really have one.
Why? Like for real?
Yeah.
Or are you memeing? Like there's no one you find attractive in Skyrim.
Not really. I mean, it's a 13-year-old game.
Yeah, but the
Vanilla.
mods! The mods, David!
Everyone's hot with the mods.
Alduin, I'm joking. I'm not a coward.
The one I will say is
Well, it's like, okay.
Oh god, what's her name?
The fucking Serana. No, but like fucking they're ugly in the base game, but then when the mods make them pretty, you can like enjoy their personality more.
What is the name
That
of
probably sounds really fucked up.
What is the name of the oh god, I'm blanking. The Nightingale girl.
Carlisle?
Carlia, yeah.
Okay.
I like Carlia.
Okay.
And it has nothing to do with her having the same voice actress as Dr. Valen. Nothing at all.
Yeah. Ayla? This is the huntress woman from the Commanders? Yeah, that's what I thought you were gonna say. I thought you'd be an Ayla person.
Nah, Ayla wants to fuck Scorn. Or Skjorn.
So?
I don't want to get in the way of them.
See, I honestly, I don't know. I thought your
Helga,
line
that is bold.
Listen, if you wanna, like, she probably knows what she's doing, if nothing else. I said welcoming Kiwis. Like,
Okay.
she knows what's up,
All right.
you know.
Well, okay, so
She freaky.
we've cleared Bleak Falls Barrow. But there's a very important next step. Okay? We need to murder an old woman.
Huh?
Yep. You heard me.
Okay. A sexy, wait, we can make Hermaeus more sexy? Oh, fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. Is it, wait, Hermaeus more is just floating tentacles. Is it just floating tentacles with tits on the bottom? Wait, can you imagine the tits are, like, also
Oh.
floating?
Huh?
This is the old woman I'm here to murder.
She doesn't get your ass first. Goddamn. Goddamn, dude. There you go.
There we
There
go.
you go. You two are bullying old people. I'm not bullying old people. I'm just a bystander.
I'm bullying old people.
Not Helga the chambermaid. Oh, a different one. Oh, okay. Listen, I thought you'd be for Ayla. I know you like Serana. Because who doesn't like Serana?
She's
Let's be
okay.
real. Really?
Yeah.
But Laura Bailey.
Yeah, but it's Laura Bailey.
I thought Hermie was already sexy to you. Well, yeah, but like everything can be improved upon by adding tits. You know, like.
Here's
Why
the thing.
not?
Here's the thing. Serana, maybe, but she needs like a
Oh no, we've
decade
talked
of
about
therapy
that. We've
first.
talked about that.
Okay.
She needs therapy, but like, she's still pretty.
Yeah, she's all right.
What about the lads?
What?
What about the lads?
No.
Like Brynjolf?
No. Okay, I'm gonna say something controversial. Brynjolf isn't actually hot. He's just stands out to you as interesting because he has a different voice actor than everyone else.
I thought you were gonna say it's because he's manipulative.
That too, but I wasn't gonna put you on blast for that. You're still getting shit for the Astarion clip.
Listen. Listen. Okay.
I was right. I am right, but I'm not. I wasn't gonna say it again.
Listen. I'm not saying that I am. Oh, you know.
Nothing
Actually,
you can say here makes you look good.
Yeah, nothing I say here makes me look good. Well played.
Yeah.
The voice actress for Serana also voices Lust in Full Metal Alchemist. Oh,
She voices
interesting.
a lot of things.
Hello, gamer. Oh, that's okay if you're late. We've gotten a good amount of artifacts. We just murdered an old woman, so that's cool. Let me see. Just a sexy dude with green skin. Oh. See, I feel like I might just want the tentacles then. I don't know. Can I say something fucked up? I mean, I do every day, but like, I feel like just the like floating tentacles is sexier than like a man. Does that make sense?
Why do you say things?
Well, I don't know. I feel like it's like it's like being in the same vein as being like a monster fucker, you know? Like I can fuck a man, like, you know, that's nothing crazy. But like fucking a big eldritch tentacle monster, that's like cross that off my to-do list, you know?
That was on your to-do list?
Well, no, but like it'd be like a
Is there like bucket list? Like
no, but like if given the opportunity, I'd probably jump at it more. You know? Like, you know the thing in Baldur's Gate where you fuck the big tentacle man?
yeah,
Yeah, it's like that.
you got issues.
Did you fuck the tentacle man in Baldur's Gate?
No,
Why not?
I don't want to spoil it for people that are still working through it.
We'll talk about this later.
Okay,
This is a conversation for off stream.
we're not gonna talk about this later.
Sven and Feindog can finally acknowledge their true feelings for each other. Is the whole Sven and Feindog... What if they were both just compet? It was just Camilla's in the way. Listen, Eebee streams are always a little horny. Even if they don't mean to be. This is always a little horny. It's dark as fuck, goddamn.
It is dark as fuck.
You need a torch.
No,
Oh. Are you just freeballing it?
I am.
Okay. Where are we going now that we killed that old woman?
Well, we got the golden apple,
Okay.
so that's done. Now we're at the standing stones.
Okay.
I'm going to collect all these because I need alchemy ingredients and potions.
Potion seller.
We need to activate the standing
Look,
stones.
babe starts paying whenever Sven and Feindog walks. Why do you wake up next to him in the village night?
I know what mod I'm making when I get a second.
Have you seen the chapel gnome in Baldur's Gate 3?
I have. Okay, so now we need to do the main quest up until we become Thane of Whiterun.
Okay. That's pretty easy.
However, I am...
Are you over cucumbered? What's your cucumber rating?
I'm at 297 out of 375.
That's not
I
bad.
have levels. Hold on.
Yeah, you should probably level up so you stop getting your ass beat.
What are you trying to say?
You've been kind of getting your ass beat.
Okay, and?
Well, you don't... I mean, do you like getting your ass beat?
What about it?
I mean, it's okay if you do. Like, I'm not gonna judge, but it's like it's just an observation. You've been getting your ass beat.
I'm feeling very judged right now.
Well, I'm not like trying to kink
I thought
shame.
this was a safe space.
No, I'm just asking if you like getting your ass beat. It's
I'm,
not like
I am being
directed
judged
anyway.
on the Eebee game
it's
stream.
not like you like. Do you want me to beat your ass? Like I can.
Not,
if you want.
I refuse to discuss this without my lawyer present.
Well, if you have a phone, you have a lawyer.
1-800-lawyers, not sponsored.
Wait, but I have my VTuber.
God damn, I have Rockjoin again.
And then I have my actual phone, so I have two phones. So therefore, I have two lawyers, and you only have one lawyer.
I only need one lawyer.
But I have two lawyers.
I have a better lawyer.
They're both kissing.
Oh my god.
Is there a reason you can't wipe out the Thieves Guild in Riften? I think you can, actually.
No, I think a bunch of them are essential.
Okay.
Reason being, and this
yeah,
is...
you should get some bandoliers.
Oh yeah, I know I should.
They're pretty easy to craft because you need to get your crafting skill up anyway.
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest. I have a plan for that already, but I might throw a few together.
Bro's got a plan. What's your plan?
Transmute ore.
Fair enough.
Yeah, just buy iron, turn it into gold craft rings.
Got something I'm supposed to deliver.
What do you want?
For a really long time,
I have a
I
letter
always
here
thought
for
that the courier just looked really dirty,
Let's
and then
see,
I
looks like
realized
that's
that was
it.
his facial hair.
Yeah, he just can't grow a full beard.
Damn,
Got
that's
riches
crazy.
beyond imagining.
Ah! Listen, I love the Forgotten City. It's such a good mod, but I just don't want her to. I don't like that it's voiced with the letter. That does annoy me.
Oh, did Aryan finally give me the safe house? Good.
Already?
Yeah, I mean, I've already got like 60.
Jesus fucking Christ. How many streams did it take us to get to 60? What, like 3?
Hey, stop that.
Hey, you, no.
Thief, no
Wait,
thieving.
she's got fat titties, bro. Look at that.
Damn.
What?
I moused the erection spell.
Are you gonna give her an erection?
No, it's for me.
Oh, everybody like fat titties and a fat cock? Whoa, wombo combo.
I don't want to hit her in case I hit the horse. Good job, boys.
Boobies.
You can't say that about a dead woman.
I mean, the nice boobies were there before she died. It's not like her dying made her tits smaller.
Yeah, but it's weird for you to comment on it after she's dead. Can you imagine being at a funeral and it's like, I knew Thief well. She had a fat rack.
I mean, that's how I want you to talk about me at my funeral.
Noted.
Yeah.
Done talking
Like,
about this.
Hi, folks. We're...
you have to honor her in life and in death. What she would have wanted. Has she picked locks with those in the way?
Very carefully.
No, she picks locks with her nipple.
What are you doing that for?
Hi, Lucan. Don't worry about it. Don't
Don't worry about it. Don't worry
this
about it.
is- you-
You know, you can put a basket on his head. That's what I do. I just put baskets on his head.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I'm trying to be not too mean.
Who's employing all the couriers, and why do they only hire humans?
Yeah, well, I don't know what
That's
you
a good
overheard,
point.
But the Riverwood
Although
Trader
to be,
is still
oh wait, he's
open.
kind of hot
Feel
now.
free to
Hold
shop.
on.
I don't...
He kind of
Yeah, okay, yeah, no, it's not... He's not...
Yeah,
Not like
we did have
like it's an upgrade from before. I'd say
We
like
still
6
have
out of 10.
plenty to sell.
Yeah, that's fair.
Robbers
Yeah,
were
6 out of
only
10,
after
yeah.
one thing.
I think they patch baskets.
An ornament.
I mean, it still
Solid
worked
gold
for
in the
me,
shape of a dragon's
but
claw.
that could be mod fuckery.
You found it.
All right, Lucan, here's...
I'm gonna put
We've
this
all heard
back
him talk
where it
about
Yeah, we
belongs.
don't need to hear
I'll-
him
I'll
yap.
never
He's just
forget
yapping.
this. You've
To
done
maybe a
great
Destroyer
thing for
Officer
me and
Jenny
my
sort of
sister.
deal. They're all related.
Thank you
You know,
so
that
much
would
for
make
taking care of
sense.
the- Oh,
That
bit
would-
of this,
that would
a
add
bit of
up.
that.
Oh, he's your friend. You have a friend.
Yeah, I do
You
have
made
a
a
friend.
friend.
Oh, boy.
Yay!
I don't need friends. They disappoint me.
Oh.
All right.
Mm,
We're gonna sell some
there
stuff.
is.
Oh, wait, I need that frostbite venom, actually. Never mind.
You can use the frostbite venom to dye leather and get like the dark leather pouches. They look. They look cool.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm very content today. I'm a little eepy, but that's okay. You've made a friend. Now go get the ebony blade.
Oh,
Yeah,
hell yeah.
I needed to find more people to kill with the ebony blade.
Well, they need to trust you first.
Well, that's the thing. That's my problem is no one trusts me, so I can't kill them.
I mean, can you blame them?
No. Oh, good night, Satan. Have a good Eep gamer.
No, it's his name, but just
Bye-bye.
good night, Satan.
What? You just Devon can see the chat. It's fine. Yeah, it's fine. No, but the thing is like with the ebony, like I have it on my Vanya save, right?
Right.
And the thing is, Vanya has little noodle arms and no two-handed skills, so she always looks really fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Whenever she's trying to hit somebody with it.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. All right, we're gonna run back to the Dragonborn gallery real quick.
Make a little pit stop.
Make a little pit stop.
Just do a little fast travel as a treat.
Yeah,
Just
and then
give bards and beggars gold and murder them. Oh, that makes sense. It's fucked up, but it works.
unethical life hack.
Unethical life hack. Life pro tip.
I love the unethical life hack subreddit, but half of them are just
Yeah.
like commit tax fraud.
Yeah,
and it's
that-
like,
I
wait a
mean-
second.
I mean, tax fraud is kind of a life hack. Wait, see if you got donation. Oh, you didn't get any donations.
No,
one
not
likes
yet.
You.
Well, we only
It's 'cause
have
No one likes you.
we only have 73 displays, so
Well, this might put you at 100.
it probably will,
100.
but we'll see.
Yay!
Let's just get these all distributed. All right.
Oh, you don't do the auto sort?
No, because it breaks half the time for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh. Wouldn't say it's unethical. I'd argue it's ethical.
Also, it's kind of cool to see the stuff that we're putting away, I think. So.
That's true, actually. Just to, like, kind of see everything. That makes sense. Extra unethical tip. Use staff of zombies or ritual stone to repeatedly raise a friend from the dead to murder them again. Stonks. I feel like I've never actually completed any of the fate card sets, low-key.
They're hard. They are not
Yeah.
easy to get together.
Is there, like, because they're all random in terms of... Why am I so sleepy? They're all random in terms of the drop rates, right?
So, yes, but there is
Yeah,
a...
you get 100.
There are, as far as I know, 2 fate
Recycling.
cards, or fate card dealers.
Oh.
So one of them is in Dragon's Reach, and the other is in the New Niece's Corner Club.
Did you know that the Legacy of the Dragon people, they have a store and you can buy like the little banners and stuff, and we could put one in our home.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love
I
that.
think we should do that. I think it'd be cool.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. There's also low-key some art that I have that I'm thinking of getting printed and framed. But also, that means I could have my OCs kissing and then frame it in our house.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Would you be okay with that?
I mean, sure.
Yay. I think it'd be cool. Yeah, a bunch of them in trade for the
I'm
ones you
glad
need.
you're
Yeah, that makes
here.
sense.
I came across a rare discovery
Wow, Orion, you look a little different.
and was able to procure
I think he
it
looks
myself.
great. You're just being a
Use it
hater.
if you wish, or place
You look
it on
a
the
little bit like a rock.
No, you got a haircut.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. All right, you're looking good, man.
Yeah. You just got a haircut.
All right, we'll
Where
just.
does Skull Crusher go over there? You're my Skull Crusher.
What's that supposed to mean?
I was trying to flirt.
I'm a little scared.
Oh. So no then?
Yeah, no.
Oh, okay. He's rock solid.
Oh wait, I have a painting still. Hold on, let me put
yeah,
the painting
you
up.
pull up your painting.
Move, Orion.
Ah, my friend.
Move.
Bonk. I don't know. He's just so kissable, you know.
I don't see it, but okay.
I don't know. Something about elves, man.
Yeah.
It just gets me going.
Okay.
The pointy ears. You know.
You're a little weird,
I don't know.
little freaky.
What's wrong with that? David can crush you with his thighs. Yeah. Yeah.
Again, the wrong site for that.
Listen.
But for the low price of $100,000, pay off my student loans. All right.
See, we keep saying that, but what if that actually happens and then you have to whip your cock out?
That's a risk I'm willing to take.
Huh.
Yep.
What if I have to whip my cock out?
That's I can't sign you up for that one. You need to decide that for yourself.
Well, I don't want to abandon you in your time of need.
Yeah, that would be pretty fucked up.
Like,
That'd be
I
pretty
feel like
sick
I don't
and
wanna,
twisted
leave
of you.
to the dogs, you know.
Yeah,
To fight the battle of whipping your cock out alone.
I have the fucking brain rot.
What?
I thought you were going to say to fight the Battle of Thermopylae.
Why do you keep bringing up the Battle of Thermopylae?
Okay, so a little context for that.
Is this? Oh yeah, because this is this is about the Pathfinder game I'm in, where I played Jasper, and then Jasper fucking died, and now it's canon that he has "Do Not Resuscitate" as a tramp stamp.
It's true. We did decide that.
Is that gonna make it into the book? Probably not.
I think it should.
But we can't say for certain.
No, so I was playing Pathfinder. I was playing in a Pathfinder game with some people from work, and it was like Egypt themed. And one of
You hated it.
I did not like it, but one of the characters was a hoplite. He was Greek, and he was an elf, so he was like 500 years old. but he was a Greek hoplite. And so we treated him like he was an old man.
Mm-hmm.
And one of his things was he would always like tell stories at the campfire, but he was really bad at it.
Mm-hmm.
So the joke was that he kept telling the same story over and over again of the time that he was at the Battle of Thermopylae. So that's why it became a thing where it's just like, ah, yes, the Battle of Thermopylae. We had another character where every time he told a campfire story, he was just like, this time on episode 2 of One Piece.
Yeah, he's just going through One Piece.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pathfinder is a TTRPG system, so there's Pathfinder First Edition, Pathfinder Second Edition. It's similar to D&D in the sense that they're both like fantasy tabletop RPGs, but we play Pathfinder Second Edition is the one we play.
I have opinions about D&D 5e that I won't get into.
Listen, sometimes people want your opinions. I remember one time I let you just take over my model and you just ranted about D&D 5e for like 20 minutes.
It's bad and I hate it.
I mean, okay, here's the thing. I think D&D is a really great start to tabletop RPGs. However, I think it's also good to try different tabletop RPGs.
I think it's a good intro for everyone but the DM.
Yeah, that's fair. I think a lot of people just homebrew shit, though, you know? Like, they just don't feel like learning a new system. They find it easier to homebrew. I like both systems for different reasons. That's valid. Like, I don't like if someone asks me to play 5e, I'll play 5e, but David just straight up will not play 5e.
5e is the IKEA of tabletop systems.
Well, and some people like the meatballs.
That's fine. No, what I mean by that, it'll get the job done, but it doesn't come assembled. It gives you the parts. You need to figure out how to get that shit together yourself.
Swedish meatballs.
No meatballs. Only pain.
Halt.
Aw.
City's closed with the dragons about. Official business
Official
only.
business only.
Please let me in.
We'll be keeping
I'm
an eye on
surprised
you.
with this mod pack sucking his dick isn't an option.
It should be.
I don't know, there's something funny to me about potential, like, terrorist, like, fucking world-shattering event. Well, head, you know.
Bingo, Karma Jockey. Hasbro is shit.
Yeah, that's why I also don't play Magic the Gathering anymore.
I just burnt out on Magic. There's too much content.
Yeah.
Like, there's new shit coming out.
What? Wait, hold on. No, go.
That's for the Imperial soldiers.
I just can't.
Wait, is that Bjorn? No, that's not Bjorn.
No, that's...
Do you know about Bjorn Longsword, David?
I do.
And ask Yorland Greymane
That's
for help.
the Battleborn guy.
Wait, talk to him. Wait, is his peanuts out?
Besides, great.
Do I need to censor this?
Have it your way.
Hold
I'll
on.
take the job, but don't
Just
expect me to-
alt tab and then hide the game capture for a second.
His cock is gone.
Wait, what? No, look at. Okay, then look at him. Look at him.
Greymane or Battleborn?
You good, bro?
Greymane or Battleborn?
What?
Got stones in your ears? I asked what side you're on. Greymane
I feel
or
like-
Battleborn?
I feel like he has bigger things to worry about,
I don't know what you're asking, bro.
New in
or maybe
town, huh?
average things to
White
worry
runs
about.
got two clans, both old and both
I-
respected. Difference is, the Greymanes turn
In
their
the
backs on the
Shadow
Empire,
Realm.
and we
His
Battleborn
cock's in
stay
the. I don't know
loyal.
why so many people's
So
cocks
I'll
are in
ask
the Shadow
again,
Realm.
Greymane or Battleborn?
I'm not picking
Sooner or
sides.
later, we all have to choose a side. Long live the Empire.
He looks like he played lacrosse in high school.
Okay.
He just walks away.
All right. So actually, I'm gonna go break into his house real quick.
Bro, his dick was
Oh,
sent
hey.
to the Shadow Realm and he's
You
getting
look worse.
robbed.
Only if.
But
Are you always drunk?
Hey,
Okay.
in
Yeah.
the banner,
I'll bring you your ale. All right.
Argonian
Okay.
ale.
Cool.
I
Bye.
can almost taste it.
I feel like you're enabling him.
I am.
Idle off more like I don't have a dick.
So we're gonna do a couple of little side quests here real quick. First is I know that I need to break into his house for another quest later, and we will, but I'm just doing this to get the Saber Cat statue now.
Yeah. Well, can you break in there? Oh no,
Oh,
you
it's-
can just. This is open. They left their back door open. Dumbest trick in the book.
What an idiot!
I think
Anyway,
you should steal their cheese. I don't know if they have a cheese, but. Oh, okay.
fuck your gourd.
Disrespect your surroundings. Do you still have gourd-related trauma from the last playthrough we
I
did
do. I'll
together
never
of
forgive the
an entire
gourds.
2 hours. It's very intense. Saber cat figurine.
Okay. Also, while we're in here, I'm going to steal a bunch of books.
No, I love stealing books. Something about the books just gets me going.
We are not worshiping Sheogorath.
Why not?
Because he's just too silly.
Am I silly?
You're not too silly.
This got messed up when you tried to install the Dunmer Dami Mommy. Is that actually what it is? Cause that's fucking hilarious if that's what it is. You have to pick one. Dunmer Dami Mommy or penises. Just in general.
Why can't I
And
have both?
I chose Dunmer Dami Mommy. Does Dunmer Dami Mommy... Like, yeah, why would that mess with everyone else's penis?
That's what the Dunmerdami mommy does, is she messes with your penis.
Everyone's?
Hello, ma'am.
I don't think you're doing a... Well...
Goodbye.
I don't think you're doing a great job.
I'm doing great.
Like, being sneaky.
What do you mean?
Low-key. Because you kind of just walked up to her and, like, stared her in the crotch and then left.
Yeah, that's how you be sneaky.
I don't think that's how you do it.
No,
Wait,
trust me.
turn around. Hold on. Oh, I thought I saw a cat. Never mind.
That's just a gourd.
Dumber Dummy Mommy with penis? No, I don't think the Dumber Dummy Mommy has penis, but messed up all the penises.
What?
Are you thinking?
But what if she did?
But, like, how?
But what if she did?
But how?
She's just that powerful.
That's when it started? Oh, yeah, that would make sense. Like the correlation's there, but it's the causation. Am I using those words correctly?
I think.
Yay! She stole penis. She needs to give them back. That's so sick and twisted.
Oh my.
If you donate $5 today, we can get someone's penis back from the Shadow Realm, and he will be penisless no more. It's like that, but like in the arms of an angel's playing in the background. Like an ASPCA. Donate $5 today, and you can get someone's dick back from the Shadow Realm. For a low, and as a thank you, we'll send you this commemorative calendar of the dicks of Skyrim.
The dicks of Skyrim, the commemorative calendar.
Well, that's what they do in those ASPCA commercials. They give you a calendar. It's got like cats and dogs. Oh no!
Oh, no.
Yara, thank you for the raid. Someone's dick got sent to the Shadow Realm. Thank you, sir. So mom can shout out Yaru. I would appreciate it. Welcome to the stream. My name is Eebee Games. I like Skyrim. Oh, boy, you are now guessing Geeky Gorboss. Thank you for the follow. I like Skyrim. This is my boyfriend on my head, David. He also likes Skyrim. And we are playing through the legacy. Oh, thank you for the Eebee loves. Nyaru, I love you. I give you a kiss, okay? Mwah. Okay, just for you.
Oh.
But but we are playing through the legacy of the Dragonborn mod, which basically is. Wait, why are her boobs out? Wait, is she wearing pants?
She's wearing the nocturnal robes.
Oh.
Which
okay.
you usually only see on like a ghost. So yeah, she's mostly naked.
Oh, good for her. But but basically, I tried to. Legacy of the Dragonborn is a mod for Skyrim that lets you collect everything you get in Skyrim, and you display it in a museum, and it's really cool. But there's also like 6,000 things to collect, and I tried to do it on my own. But then I got distracted because I have crippling ADHD, and David is here so we can do it correctly and stay on track. But welcome to the stream. How is your stream, Nyaru? Did you have fun? What did you play? OCD mod, essentially.
This
Wait,
dog talks.
May the earth beneath your feet be always soft.
Demir's also talking. Sorry, my cat's yapping in the background.
I'm not taking the talking dog with us, but that's fucking weird.
Wait, why?
Because companions annoy me.
But it's a dog! Did you just eat that man?
It's a skeleton.
Need something?
Yeah,
Can you
no.
please take the dog?
I'm not taking
Wait, what
the
does his
dog.
voice sound like?
He sounds like a Khajiit.
Oh.
Or no, he's got a Dunmer voice, I'm sorry.
Oh, I don't know. It was gonna be really funny if the dog had a really deep voice or some shit. Also,
I want
Jeff
you to
is
know that
climbing.
the cat
Jeff
is
my
like
cat.
right on my face.
Yeah, he's climbing like
What are you
on
doing,
the
bud?
keyboard.
Do you want to play?
So my fucking cat is on the desk now. Oh, Jetmir. Oh, he's puffed up. I think there's something outside bothering him. There's a skeleton child in Markarth. Yeah, that's Ryder. Ryder, the skeleton child that has a mohawk. He's sick as fuck, dude.
Wait, but this is also Ryder.
No. I think it's a. God, what was his name? But he has a. There's a skeleton kid in Markarth in the Hall of the Dead, and he has a mohawk, and he's cool as shit. So if we do go to Markarth, I don't want to go to Markarth, but if we do, well,
We're gonna need to go to Markarth eventually. I found every item in Skyrim except the ones in
I
Markarth.
fucking hate Markarth. It's like the Detroit of Skyrim.
You can't say that.
It's annoying, and it's just. I mean, like, okay, Markarth is really pretty. Okay, I like Markarth. It's very like unique compared to everything else in Skyrim. But also, I fucking hate the Sidna mine quest.
I know you're
Nothing-
Companions love to get in the path of your
tried
swords into
mercenary work?
oblivion. True.
Neither are you, eh?
Welcome in, everybody.
weeks.
Welcome in.
All right, you two keep arguing so I can interrupt your marital dispute. Come on.
Listen, I'm from
so you're
Baltimore,
willing to stop.
and I'd
Sometimes
like.
I miss the soldier's life.
Markarth
My
is.
daughter. I just need to
Although,
hire one, maybe
yeah,
two
Markarth
good
also
men.
has the guy that like sells human meat for people
I'll
to
put
eat.
it plainly.
Yeah,
You
bloodiest
can
beef in the
claim your
reach.
sword, or you can keep your wife.
Yeah, I feel
If
like,
you set
listen,
foot
between the
outside
murder
that
in the
gate,
streets
I
and the
won't be
cannibal
here when you
butcher,
return.
I feel like they don't
My wife's
like.
a good woman.
I don't know
She
if
can
good
be a little
architecture
hard-headed
can
sometimes.
save that. You know what I mean?
Don't forget the shrine to Molag Bal in the haunted house.
Yeah, I feel like that's not. I don't think that's like good.
Also, their alchemist apprentice gets a hit on somebody because they broke up with her.
You know,
I'm the commander.
that's,
Most of the people in Markarth just kind of suck.
that's what I'm trying to
Like-
say. Their Jarl's pretty chill though.
He's all right, but he's also just like, the Forsworn. Too bad I can't do anything about it. The Silverbloods, yeah.
Yeah. Don't you kill all the Silverbloods if you're part of the companion? No, that's the Silver Hand I'm thinking of. Okay. I Jarl Ballin.
Okay,
What
I'm
do you
going to
say
skip
now,
as much of this dialogue as I can. We've all done this, right?
You can
One
go.
moment.
Actually, no. While this is happening, you can go steal books. If you go into the bookshelves, you can just take the books from
No,
the
I know,
bookshelves.
I know, but I'm gonna wait until I'm Thane, so I'm stealing fewer of them.
Oh yeah, because when you are Thane, I think you can just take them.
You can take a lot of them.
Yeah. Don't forget Wizard's Death Trap filled museum in the palace. You know, listen. Are you gonna level up, by the way?
I'm saving it for the dragon.
Oh, okay.
and incantations
That
for
makes
those
sense.
with the talent to guess them.
And then while we're here,
Yeah. Do you have any like spells you need? Oh no, I think there was a book up there that was part of the museum.
lightning bolt.
Lightning bolt.
Yeah, there was. I am
Look at her,
running
girl.
out
She's
of
a
money.
baddie. She's a baddie.
So money is going to be a constant issue in this playthrough.
We need $50,000.
But
We
you
have
need
to buy a house.
you need to spend money to make money. So
Okay.
If you'll excuse me,
I mean, well,
I'll return to my
how are we? Because we were talking about this last night.
Here.
When can we get King
Come,
Orgnum's
Let's go
coffer?
find
So I
Florence.
need to-
That's the gold
My court
generating
wizard.
thingy.
I need to kill a dragon priest to do it.
Cannibal cult, terrorists, danger gods, assassinations, capitalists. That's
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
apple juice. Great. It's like the fucking like say that to the Timmy Turner fucking theme song, bro. Like I just listen. Although to be fair, Markarth. I feel like Markarth is shitty, but it's pretty.
conflict.
But Riften is shitty and also ugly.
Well,
You know what I mean?
when I say fact,
Like I feel
straight to the
like.
I
You think Riften or
go to
Markarth
Bleak
is
Falls
worse?
Barrow.
Because I like
Find this-
clowning on
Ah,
Markarth because it's just
the
kind of
Dragon
funny
Stone of
because
Bleak
everyone
Falls
hates
Barrow.
Markarth.
Here's the
But,
thing.
like,
Realistically,
You'll have to.
Riften smells like shit.
I mean, yeah.
Like, and I know it's like, yeah, all medieval cities smell like shit, but like Riften with the canal,
Riften extra
especially.
smells like shit.
Like, oh, he's caught on the stairs. Go,
No,
buddy.
he's good.
There you
There
go.
he goes. There he goes. You have to steal money to spend money to make money. Kitty! Pet the cat. Pet the cat. Pet the cat.
Hi, Axiom. Good kitty.
Good
Oh,
kitty.
and here's a real kitty. Hello, kitty.
Yeah, our cat is wanting attention right now, and he's very upset that he can't get it from either. Well, I'm petting him right now. You're fine. You're fine.
He's upset about something.
He is upset about something. Alright.
So,
Hi, Jarl
Irileth
Ballin.
tells me you came from. Be
Also,
careful.
if you interact with the war tables, it's something with the, like, don't do it, because it'll trigger something with the Civil War. Oh gosh, I don't know what Civil War mod it is, but it can. No, don't touch it! It's gonna fuck with shit, and then you're gonna
Oh,
get
you're
upset.
scared, Jetmere.
I'm sorry, Jetmere.
What's the hurry?
I just didn't want your father to crash Skyrim.
Shut up. Shut up.
No, you can't just push people. You have to talk to him.
No. Okay, so if you're in dialogue that you can't make them skip, like they're talking to each other, if you bump into if you like run into them, it interrupts the dialogue.
Oh.
And please. Good.
Don't
That makes sense.
So I am
So
doing
you're
it on purpose.
strategically bonking the shit out of him.
Yes, I am.
And this is all part of your mask. That's the strat, is to just be annoying.
The strat is I'm impatient and trying to get him to keep going.
Okay. You know what? That's fair, actually. I respect that. Sometimes you need to be really insufferable to get what you want. And I respect the hustle. Owning houses is expensive. There's your geared... Yeah, there's a bunch of... We need a lot of money. Because some of the weapons in this game or that we need to get for Legacy are all the Thane weapons. Right? So, like...
Which
we need
4
to
out
have
of
the
9...
houses.
4 out of 9 holds require you to own a home.
Not all of them, but 4 out of 9 is still a lot.
It's the non-Whiterun walled-in ones. And it gets expensive real quick.
Well, the fact that Solitude's 50k in the mod pack is kind of fucking insane.
Yeah, and part of this is going to be filling the money filling the museum generates money, but that's not going to be fast enough. So we're gonna need to get King Orgdum's coffer. I imagine by the time I hit level like 20, I should be able to do it.
Yeah.
But even then, I'm gonna need a lot of potions, and I'm gonna need to cheese it a little bit because those dragon priests are not fucking around.
Right. So we're going to the dragon fight now, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Cola, did you bring enough for everybody?
Yeah, do you have a Sunday? Do you have enough for everybody? Can you fast travel there?
I mean, I haven't been there yet.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought we had passed the Western Watchtower already. But I think this one...
Okay, it's a large... All right, everyone grab a spoon.
Everyone grab a spoon.
Come get a bite
We're
of the
all
sundae.
getting part of Cola's Sunday. Everyone gets a little bit. Oh, good night, Ariel. Thank you so much for hanging out, gamer. Thank you for hanging. I hope you have a good rest. So, with the dragon, do we get any artifacts from the dragon?
So, no, but we become Thane of
Doesn't
Thane
that
of
give you
Whiterun.
a display? in
It
itself?
does.
Well, no, because then we'll get the weapon from it.
The Sword of Whiterun is also an option.
Okay.
One thing, this isn't like directly a relic. He is guaranteed to. Oh my! Okay, this is one thing. Love this mod overhaul. Before I criticize anything, I do love it.
Disclaimer: don't cancel him.
You can't hit a lot of the ore veins because of the way the camera is adjusted and the changes to the weapon swinging animations.
I thought it was just because the boobies were too big.
No, it's not because the boobies are too big, so you need to like manually do it instead of whacking the veins.
My boobs are too big, and now I can't mine or craft.
No.
How will I ever financially recover?
You won't.
No.
But also the dragon.
Oh my god. Was that necessary?
I need elk hide.
Was that fucking...
Yes. I need.
I feel like that's... Oh my god.
I need hide and antlers.
You're a monster.
What about it?
Like... the way they just flopped over. I don't know, David. I just feel like that's a little excessive. I feel like you didn't need to necessarily go that hard for that, you know?
I feel like you're a little excessive.
Listen, you need to be humane. Kind of.
No, get back.
To a degree.
Anyway, one of the things the dragon is guaranteed to have on them is Whiterun guard armor.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Which means that I don't need to go through the trouble of secretly stabbing a guard to death.
Well, you know, maybe I like secretly stabbing guards to death, you know? So...
Well, that's fine. You have the right. But also, there's a Hall of Natural Science dragon display.
Oh, yeah.
So...
That's right. Okay. Dragon time!
Okay, quick save real quick. All right, Mermolner. All right. Okay.
Alright, just run up and start blasting.
I need to conserve my stamina for running away.
Yeah, you are kind of made of tissue
Oh shit,
paper.
that didn't hit.
How much health do you have right now?
Like 140.
like
3.5.
less than 10. Oh my god!
What?
He's popping off.
Yeah, he's fine.
No, I'm just saying, I didn't see the dragon, like... I know there are some mods that mess with the dragons. I don't remember what's vanilla and what's not anymore. We have so many fucking mods installed.
This texture is not vanilla, I can tell you that.
No, yeah. He kind of looks rad, though. He kind of reminds me of Guy Fieri.
Yeah, is this the Diners, Drive-Ins, and Drives
Look,
dragon?
because it's got the black on the bottom and the red and the yellow. It looks like the shirt that Guy Fieri wears.
Mermolner, do you know Guy Fieri?
Yeah, I think he's trying to get to the diners, the drive-ins, and the dives. He's trying to defend Flavortown.
Oh, well, shit. No, I'm sorry for interfering.
See what I mean, though? It's like, the
No, I
dragon's like Guy Fieri coded.
Yeah, no, you're kind of right.
You know?
Okay, I can only get 3 cast off before I'm out of Magicka.
That's okay.
No way.
He's murdering other people, so you can just like chill, eat a cookie, have a good, you know.
Are there cookies?
Maybe. Did you grab any when you robbed that woman?
No.
Did you grab any when you killed that old lady?
No.
Oh, then you don't get a cookie.
Hey, I'm the most beloved person in all of Skyrim. I've never done anything.
You are the prettiest princess in the whole world. This is true. Are you just gonna start eating me?
Yep.
I mean, you do get the one-handed up. There's probably a better way to get your one-handed up vibe. Well,
If Dark Souls has taught me anything, if
there's
I
a
stand
giant
here...
behind
Yeah,
you,
I
by the
saw.
way.
I saw. Hey, buddy.
That's, I mean, he's chilling.
Listen, if Dark Souls has taught me anything, though, it's that he can't hit me if I'm glued to his stomach.
This is true. This is true.
Mermolner's heart.
I feel like it says it's not a display, but I would grab that. I feel like that's important. Actually, no. I think isn't there in the Hall of Natural Science? Because they have the thing with the dragon displays, right?
Yeah, but he's not one of them.
Yeah. So what's the heart for? I feel like that's because I know that's added by the mod pack. You know.
How did you do that?
Oops. Does Moonlight as the main singer to Smash Mouth? Hey now, you're in all
Well,
star.
we can't ask him anymore. I fucking ate his soul.
Well, then you would know. If you ate his soul, is he the lead singer in Smash Mouth?
Maybe now I'm the lead singer in Smash Mouth.
You want to be the lead singer in Smash Mouth?
No.
Oh. Well,
Why would I?
I'm Did you ever read that Smash Mouth is really angry at the existence of Shrek?
No one would know who they are if it weren't for the existence
No,
of
they're
Shrek.
like, I think it was like they had an article where they're like, yeah, we were gonna be the next Beatles, and now no one takes us seriously. They just think of us as being the band from Shrek, and it's like,
I
well,
think
yeah.
I think the lead singer just angrily tweeted that one day.
Yeah, but I think it's really funny.
It is kind of funny.
I listen. I don't want to like say something. You know, I know that people have very divided opinions on music, but like, I don't think Smash Mouth and the Beatles are equivalent. Like, not saying I'm an expert. I have a music degree, but I don't think the Smash Mouth. The Smash Mouth.
The Smash Mouth.
I don't think Smash Mouth is as good as the Beatles. There, I said it.
I'm gonna say something even more controversial.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the Beatles are as good as Smash Mouth.
Okay, that's actually controversial.
I don't like the Beatles.
It's like one of those things where it's like...
I understand that they were very influential for the time, but when you put on their music now, I'm like, I am bored as hell.
Uh-huh. Well, okay, it's either you're bored as hell or you're on LSD.
Yeah, and I'm not... My natural state isn't on LSD.
Why not?
Because I have a job.
Why not? We do have a Silge Blood Castle in this pack. That may explain where the dragon hearts come from. The name ones are used for trophies. That makes sense. We do have that one installed.
Okay, well, I'll hold on to that then.
Lucy
Thank
in
you.
the Sky with Diamonds. Okay, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds is a banger. Strawberry Fields Forever is a banger. But also...
Fuck you, Nazim.
Yeah, understandable. But like...
They've got a
Come
few
together,
decent songs, but like, I generally speaking, whenever someone's like, oh yeah, I love the Beatles, I'm like, eh.
Eh?
You know, like, they're fine.
Eh?
Hello, child of
And then any other hot babes over here? Besides the Talos statue?
Where's your husband?
looking for my husband.
No, wait, not Nazim. Where's
You
the...
can't just walk up to someone and go, "Where's your husband?"
I need, there he is. I needed,
Oh, for the
Amryn.
armor training
I got him
thing?
mixed up.
It might
Yeah.
suit you. My son,
Well, no,
he
his
fed his
sword
entire
is,
family
is a
attracted-
display.
I don't
That's
know why
right.
I'm saying this, but if you find it out in your travels,
Okay.
She's kind
Full
of
Time
Nazim's wife,
Towers.
kind of stacked though.
She is. She is.
deserves better.
She does.
I could treat her right.
I don't think you could.
What do you mean by that?
I don't think you can handle her.
What do you mean by that?
I don't think you can give her what she needs.
And you can?
I didn't say that.
Hmm.
I don't think Nazim can either.
I think I would be a loving. Shut up, Cola.
Aha!
Ta-da!
I got all of the statues.
Yay!
Or the
you trade the
shrines.
heart for the summon of a dragon soul. Oh, that's cool. Okay.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, I have explored the castle a little bit, but I haven't explored it like a ton. But I don't know if that's something in the base collection. I might have downloaded that separately. I don't remember.
Yes.
Hey. Argonian Ale.
Okay.
Hey.
I know, there's nothing upstairs though.
Yeah, I don't think there is. I wasn't gonna question you. I was like, he probably has a plan.
If
Then
it's
you
work you
didn't.
need, how
Hold
about
up. Rumors.
it's
Yes,
part
I've
of
seen
the
the Gilder
temple
Green.
Gilder Green.
Rumors.
You also need to think about the kid. Oh wait, no, you can't get
It's all in this
the
note.
the fucking Whispering Door
People
quest until
say
you're
there's
level
someone
20.
in
Rumors.
Because we just did it on my
It's
other
all in
playthrough
this
a while
note.
back.
So what I'm doing right
Enjoy
now
this
actually is
work
I'm just
well
getting all the
enough, but I'm
creation
ready.
club shit.
Of course.
That's so
It's all
real,
in this
actually.
note.
Biozora,
What can I
Biozora,
get you?
Biozora.
The
Give me the tea.
companions in
What's
your
poppin'?
basket?
Hold up.
Here, take a look at this. Some of the Jarl's men came by and left this bounty.
There's something recommended. That's right.
Hungry,
I remember
tired,
you
or just
mentioning
plain
it. I just
thirsty?
wasn't sure if it was in the base collection or not. But
Need
yeah, so
anything
Sel's
else?
Blood
Just
isn't in
let me
the
know.
base collection, but it is very good. It's a good. You want a tamed mountain goat, David?
No,
That's what it said. It was a for sale. Do you want a tamed mountain goat?
I'm good. I do not want a tamed mountain goat.
You should purchase the tamed mountain goat.
I don't think I'm
You
going
could
to.
have him follow you around into battle.
Why would I want a battle goat? Actually, now that I say it out loud,
yeah,
no.
the battle goat. Can you imagine? Like, they have horse armor. You think they got goat armor?
They fucking better.
Goat armor.
Okay,
Goat
all right.
armor.
All right, I'll consider it.
I think you should adopt or buy the goat. I think it'd be funny. Okay?
Where?
I think it'd be hilarious. You do need that and all the pets for that matter for a display each in the Hall of Wonders. So you gotta buy that goat.
Oh,
David.
damn it.
You gotta buy that goat.
I ain't
Ah,
done
fuck it,
nothing.
here-
Well, that all depends on.
Here's that ale.
would ya
There you go,
look
buddy.
at that.
Yeah, I guess you just have to
Argonian
make a
ale.
replica of that one then.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, that's fine. Can't imagine it's hard to make.
It's not.
No. Hi, Bellathor.
Welcome to Bellathor's General Goods. Welcome indeed.
Hi,
Everything's
Bellathor.
for sale, my. Some may call this junk.
Everyone's
Me, I
collectively
call
decided
them
Bethesda is
treasure.
responsible for all the world's evils by making the horse armors.
Listen. Listen, the games industry, horse armor. All right, that's all I'm saying. It all starts there.
Yeah,
Yep,
that's it.
yep.
Horse armor.
Horse armor.
Horse
Fortnite,
armor.
horse armor.
That's it. Just Fortnite and horse armor.
Yeah.
Fortnite horse armor, like together.
Yes,
Are you buying all those displays?
I'm buying what I can afford.
That's fair. I didn't know. I had to like look over to see how much gold you had.
Why don't you not have quarried stone either? Damn. Okay.
No one has it.
Come back.
If anyone would know, it'd be David. Yeah. What is Jetmir doing? I thought I heard him being a rapscallion.
He's always being a little bit of a
He
rapscallion.
is being a little silly. Jetmir's my cat, by the way. I know I mentioned him earlier, but he's a little bit of a goober. I've been playing a lot of Fallout 4 recently, and something's really weird hearing Nick Valentine in Skyrim. I need to go try Fallout 4 again at some point. I don't know, man.
If not, let me
Oh
know.
yeah, you need to.
I might have
There's a topless dancer here.
Throw it away.
Yeah,
It's Summer Sky.
I know. So we're just gonna not look at
You
her.
don't want to go talk to Summer Sky?
Hello, friend.
No,
Why
In the
not?
market
for
some
the same
hunting
reason I don't want to talk to Misty Sky.
Damn. I can't believe you hate women. This is
That's
fucked
not
up.
what I said.
David hates women. Did you steal that guy's wine
Got some
glass?
good
It
pieces
was
out here if
it
you're
was a
looking to buy.
display. We need it
More
for our
inside.
museum.
Do you work the Forge all day?
If you do her Amorous
It's a
Adventures
sword.
quest, she tells you that her
Listen,
husband has
could you
erectile
take this-
dysfunction.
Thanks.
You know, good for him.
Inside the shop if you need anything.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. She just starts oversharing randomly about how her husband's dick don't work and then how he also likes men.
I mean, that's fine.
Well, yeah, but it's just like she's just saying it in the middle of the fucking town square to a stranger.
I just like
And
the
then she
idea
tries
of
to
like
have sex with
like
you.
a woman just walks out into the town square. She's just like,
My
my
husband's
husband's
dick
gay.
don't work. Like that's what she does.
Where he stuffs himself
She
these
just
days.
starts yapping, and it's like, damn. Did you really need to tell us all that? Maybe you got something for her to hammer on. I mean, I guess, you know. The ladies love me. What can I say?
So I actually needed to get Bulgriff's sword from her, which is what I was doing.
Oh, right. Okay.
I wasn't just gonna be like, hey, I heard your husband's dick don't work.
I mean,
I could.
that is what happened. Like a nice thick log hot slab of steel. Need me a new greatsword. Okay. Why are
Alright.
we going back to Ballin?
So we can tell him we killed the dragon?
That's right. I forget how the main quest works. Listen, I know I just
Isolde, what were you doing up here?
business.
What business does she have in the
I
Cloud
don't
District?
know, probably she's the business lady.
But she's not yet.
She's
She just
learned
tried.
trading from the Khajiit caravans, and she's trying to take over the fucking Bannered Mare. Yeah. She says it in public. It's like, yeah, don't tell anyone. But my husband has erectile dysfunction and is gay.
Good. You're finally
Please don't
here.
tell anyone. Like that's what she does. That's what she does.
The Watchtower is destroyed. I might be Dragonborn. I absorb some power. The Greybeards. What do they want?
If you
Stop talking to your brother.
great service for me and my
That's not his brother.
by my right as Jarl.
Yes, it is.
I name you
Who?
Thane of Whiterun.
His protector guy? That's his brother.
Oh, I thought you were talking about
I
Preventus.
suck
I was like, that's
all
not.
out. We are the Greybeards.
I
Preventus.
serve Jarl
Preventus is a
Balgruuf
bitch
as
boy.
steward.
I feel like he's a cuck.
It's all in this note.
I don't know. I mean,
He
Jarl
just
is,
gives cuck
as you can
vibes. You know
imagine.
what I
The
mean?
Jarl has put out a
Yeah, that's
bounty on
fair.
some bad
Like he
fellows.
just looks
Here,
like he wants
take
to watch his
from
wife
Adrian.
have sex with other men.
Thank you.
Does that
Please,
make sense?
Take
I think
these
his
few
wife is
coins
dead.
for services rendered.
Well,
I'm just saying, like,
maybe my cuck meter is not that great, or my cuck dar.
Cockdar.
You know, like a gaydar, but maybe it's just not that great. You know?
Oh my god.
Mm.
Okay, steal
So
the.
sneaky.
There's also a
Preventional
Iolite.
cockblocker. His name Preventus. Preventus. Caucus.
Caucus Blockus.
Caucus Blockus. That's crazy.
All right, now
What's up?
we steal a shitload of books.
Books.
We're also going to read the books we don't steal.
You have to level up your Riz.
No, got. Sorry, the UI freaked out for a second.
That's okay.
Guide to Bruma.
He
Why is
loves
it doing
to
that?
read. I don't know. It might be because I have a keyboard from Five Below, so sometimes it's weird about shift clicking.
Yeah, I can see that.
Listen, I know I should probably upgrade my keyboard from the gamer RGB keyboard I bought at Five Below for $5. But like, it's mostly fine.
Mostly
so,
fine.
You know, like, it's cool. I don't care. You know, it gets the job done.
Does
you
it?
know? It gets the job done.
Does it?
Yeah.
Oh my god, this is gonna annoy the hell out of me.
I'm sorry. You could buy me a new keyboard.
I
Yeah,
have
I
a
wouldn't
spare in the bedroom,
you
and
could
you
buy
just
me a
never
new
use it.
keyboard that's not loud.
Well, you know, maybe you should.
His old keyboard is so fucking loud. Oh my god.
I loved it so much.
It was so obnoxious.
It was so good.
If you've been watching me for a while, you'd hear it in the background. I'd just be streaming, minding my business, playing Skyrim, and then you hear from his keyboard.
Yeah, that's the noise my keyboard made. Was.
Well, like the I don't know what's like a I don't know how to onomatopoeia keyboard noises.
Clunk, 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 clunk.
No, it was more like a click, 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 but like deeper, like click, 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 like I don't know. Oh my god, wait, is her nipple out?
No,
Oh, okay, I thought her nipple was out for a split second.
it is, but I'm covering it with a book.
Oh. Well, it's okay. Like, can you show nipples on Twitch?
No.
Oh.
Okay, so technically, if it's part of the game, you're allowed to, as long as you don't like focus on
Yeah,
it for an
it's part of
extended
the
period of
game.
time.
I'm not focusing on her nipple. I'm just pointing it out.
Yeah, that's kind of focusing on it.
No.
No,
No.
I think other people would.
Why is the floor?
Bulgriff, I think you need to call a carpenter. There's a bit of a structural
I
issue.
feel like you need to call more than a carpenter.
Maybe an
I feel like-
exorcist.
That way to do it. Also,
So-
you don't need to be crouching for this. The books
No,
on
I
the
do.
bookshelf you can just take.
No, some of them are stealing.
Oh. Well.
It's based on their value.
Oh. Okay, that makes sense.
Stop looking at me.
Well, if he's telling him to stop looking at you, he's gonna... Yeah. Maybe you should wait till nighttime.
I'll come back.
Yeah, just wait till nighttime. What time is it right now?
6 p.m.
Well, wait till it's like nighttime. You know?
Well, I'll just go to the other bookshelves for a little bit.
Yeah. These are these you can take right now.
Yeah, but some of these, like this one, are stealing because they're too valuable.
Well, it's just a book. You know, like. Although to be fair, do you remember college textbooks being like our college textbooks were like 7 billion years or years?
7 billion years?
They're like $7 billion.
You paid for your college textbooks in literal time?
Yeah, that's time magic, funky, fucky wucky time magic bullshit.
Ah, shit, that's wild.
Yeah. Oh, these are for the right, the Knight's Quest.
Yeah, that is so that gives me the location of all those alcoves.
That's right. Okay.
No, we're not worshiping Clavicus Vile.
Why not?
Because he's gonna want me to like fucking sell a goat or something.
Well, we need to buy the goat.
Yeah, but I need to buy a goat.
We gotta buy the goat.
But then I gotta keep the goat. I can't sell the
I
goat.
like goat. Yeah, that's true. I don't want to sell a goat. Vigilant is also in this mod pack. The quest where you like sacrifice a child.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and if you do it, it immediately locks you out of the rest of the game.
I sure love sacrificing children.
Yeah, it was an experience when we did it. Because it was one of those things where I was like, well, I just want to see what will happen. And then you just get like...
and the mod's just like, you sick fuck.
Yeah, pretty much the mod just calls you a sick fuck.
Right.
And like, they're kind of right, you know?
Hold on, what's the recipe for chorus pie? Get to the recipe.
God,
oh
it's
my...
just like fucking Pinterest.
Oh,
they tell
no.
you their life story before you get the recipe.
I don't want to make chorus pie. Forget it.
Yeah, fuck that.
I do need the book, though.
I don't need to hear about how your dad left you when you were 7 but to make a fucking chocolate chip cookie.
Yeah, my favorite is when it's like, my kids are the worst, and I hate those little shits, and my husband is useless and doesn't help me. Anyway, here's a good weeknight pizza roll-up recipe, and it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I feel like I get that it's like you're trying to pad your word count, but like, I feel like some of them are just trauma dumping. Like, I know sometimes people overuse that word, but sometimes I've read some of those recipes where it's like, yeah, and then I lost the baby. Here's how you make cherry pie. And I'm like, that's unique. Okay, that's 2 sentences I wouldn't think would go to bed together, but okay.
Here's the thing is, it's such a common thing, though, that there are extensions for Chrome that are called, like, get to the point.
Yeah.
That, like, will auto-scroll past that shit.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, man. The one thing, I had to, like, set my phone to not auto-lock, because that's the worst thing is when I'm trying to make something that my phone keeps locking or something like that.
Okay, alright, we'll come back.
Yeah, we'll have to come back.
There are more bookshelves. Upstairs. Don't blow my cover, cat.
I was so fucking eepy, dude. I don't know why. When did I go to bed last night, actually? I just don't know.
I don't know either, actually. I don't remember.
No, it was kind of late. Let me see what my Fitbit says. Apparently, I only slept for 5.5 hours, so that might be why I'm so sleepy.
That could have something to do with it.
Yeah. I also drank alcohol today, because I went out to lunch with my mom.
Yeah, but that was at, like, noon.
Yeah, but, like, I don't know. I never ended up taking a nap. I said I was going to take a nap, and then I didn't. The only way the recipes can be... Wait, that's the only way the recipes can be copyrighted in the U.S. Those only the recipe, it's automatically free for anyone to use or distribute.
Well,
that makes sense.
It doesn't make it less annoying, I'm gonna be honest.
Why can't they be uplifting stories? Why can't they be, like, happy stories? Why do they have to be so traumatic? I just feel like maybe we don't need all that, you know? Maybe we don't need all that drama.
I'm gonna be honest, though, I mean, like...
the trauma, you know?
I'll be real, though, half those recipes that I've made, they're not even really good enough to be worth copyright. Like, they're okay.
Pinterest recipes are kind of not great a lot of the time.
I don't know. My issue with, like, I'm gonna shit-talk Pinterest for a second.
Okay,
they, like,
your shit.
try to give you things that they think you'll like, but that just means stuff similar to stuff you've done before. So, like, after using it for a week, all of mine are just, like...
Chicken and rice.
It's
Chicken
just
and rice.
here's a General
Chicken and
So's
rice.
recipe.
Chicken
Here's
and
another
rice.
General So's
Chicken and
recipe.
rice.
Like,
Chicken and rice. Have you tried chicken and rice? We think you might like chicken and rice because you previously ate chicken and rice.
yeah, and it's like there are other foods, please.
Yeah, I remember one time we ate like chicken and rice for 2 weeks straight, and then I was like, "Hey, David, I don't think I like rice anymore."
I was like, well, damn.
Like I had to like go on a rice like. I had to cleanse myself of all the rice I had consumed because it was just chicken and rice every day. And it was like the same like type of sauce and everything too. Sometimes you just need some pasta, you know.
True.
Sometimes you just need some spaghetti.
My riz has increased.
Yay! David nervously looks at the 25-pound bag of rice. Do we still have the 25-pound bag?
We
of
never
rice?
bought a 25-pound bag.
We did
of
buy
rice.
a 5-pound bag, I think, one time.
Yeah, and we used it.
We used it, yeah. Listen, we did eat a lot of rice. It works, it's cheap, and it's filling. So, like, bada bing, bada boom. Wait, how's our cucumber going? Or our over cucumber, yeah, carry weight, yeah. Golf can get fucked. Who the fuck was like, let's make this book? Bro came in and started shit talking golf.
Bro, listen, I like
I mean, fair, but like, damn.
like talk your truth, absolutely. But
Talk your shit,
where's
Dave.
this coming from?
Do you have a golf related trauma you'd like to share with the class? I don't know. I remember when I was a kid, I wanted to do golf just because I thought the carry bags were really pretty whenever I saw them in the department store.
I did golf. It was not great.
Why didn't you like golf? Why, you weren't golfing?
Shit's boring.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, it's okay, but
It's not. It's not. Yeah, it's kind of just. I follow that one girl on TikTok that's like a beverage cart girl, and she like does like cute little outfits to sell the beverages to the guys.
yeah,
They're really cute, and she makes a lot of money.
I'm sure she does.
Yeah. I listen, like, I don't want to play golf, but I want to drive a golf cart. I feel like driving a golf cart would be fun.
Well, we can just go to a gated community for that.
I have to play for an outing and it's stupid, makes no sense. I'm so sorry, bestie. Yeah, that's the thing, is I feel like golf would be more fun if you weren't sober, TBH. Like, I feel like that's one of those things where having alcohol involved would be... Like, I don't drink a whole lot, you know? But, like, I feel like that would be fun, you know? I feel like that would enhance the experience.
Listen, there are two sports that okay, neither one is really a sport, but golf and cornhole. You gotta be drunk for.
Cornhole isn't cornhole Maryland's like national sport?
No, it's a big thing in PA.
Because I remember we went to like, didn't we accidentally go to like the cornhole like national championship or some shit one
No,
time?
we did watch it on TV.
Oh my god, you know what I remember? Do you remember when we saw, okay, can I minorly dox you for a second?
I don't go there anymore if you're
Yeah,
thinking
okay.
what I'm thinking.
So, David went to college.
One of the new servants?
I went
That's
to
it, end of story. No, but...
I went to college in the town that held the Little League World Series. I won't tell you which one because there's a few.
You can figure it out if you care that much.
Well, no, but and we, Eebee was visiting and another friend, and we were like, what do we want to do? And we're like, let's go to let's go to Buffalo Wild Wings. And the Little League World Series was on TV.
Yeah.
And they were replaying the final, which that year was I forget who the other team was, but one of them was the Korean Little League team.
Yeah.
And the Korean team lost.
Aw.
And, you know, I felt bad for those kids. And then I turn around and I'm like, holy shit. That's the Korean Little League World Championship team. As a team full of Korean children. Hi, Idoloff.
Damn those
His
gray
cock
hairs
got
to
sent to
oblivion.
the
Okay.
shadow realm.
But these kids walk into the Buffalo Wild Wings and they're all like clearly very distraught.
Yeah.
They're very sad. And they're like, and then they look on the TV and it's replaying their loss.
Oh my god. I felt so bad for them. They just wanted to have a nice meal and then they had to relive losing the Little League World Championship at the fucking Buffalo Wild Wings. But yeah, that happened.
Yeah. Okay.
That was an experience.
So, let's see. How are we doing on weight? We still have 100 pounds left.
I hope they changed the channel for them. No, they
didn't.
They left it on. They had the I don't know if they knew. Like
They
okay,
do. They knew.
That's so fucked though.
Um,
What do the Buffalo Wild Wings employees have against the Korean Little League team?
they don't get paid enough. They're just like, I'm having a shitty day. You're gonna have a shitty day.
You know what? Fair enough. But yeah, it's just America's Funniest Home Videos, but it's just you fucking
So fun getting pushed around.
God damn.
All right. Well, so now next step, we have a shitload of bandit camps to take care of. That have relics in them. So we're gonna do that.
The sky looks pretty.
The sky does look pretty.
Yeah.
No more sky.
Aww. But now we have to go to. Well, wait. Can we fast travel there?
No.
Why?
We can fast travel close, but I also know we're just gonna get attacked by bandits as soon as I get there.
Well, yeah, but you know, saving time, being
Nah,
efficient, and maybe the bandits have artifacts. Maybe.
Nah.
Oh.
Actually,
Yeah.
I should go unload what I've got because Halted Stream has a bunch of iron ore,
Yeah, that probably would be. a
and I'm
good
gonna
idea.
get loaded down.
I'll be real with you, David. I'm very fucking eepy.
All right. Why don't we get
I
a
keep yawning. I'm sorry.
let's get a final relic count and then we can call it a day.
We'll get our
So,
final relic count and then where we end the day.
I would like
And
to
then
remind
Eebee go to bed.
I would like to remind everyone that Vanya's last game put her at 600 some artifacts, was it?
Well, we're not done Vanya's playthrough quite yet.
Well,
but
no,
we're
but-
currently I think we just hit 600.
And you've been playing that playthrough for how long?
We had our 33rd stream of it.
Okay. This is stream 1. We're going to get a total.
Okay.
Hi, Aryan.
I
have something for you.
What can I do for you?
I found the thing.
Ah, splendid. Nice.
Yeah,
find,
so I am
friend.
going to do Aryan's things because he pays you for it.
Oh yeah, we need money.
So even if I don't need the hints yet, having the money is useful. Oh,
Okay.
before I do this, real quick.
Yeah, make your replicas.
I don't have a gold ingot. I thought I did. Okay, never mind.
Oh, yeah, we'll have to do those later.
I'll have to
then.
grab it later. No big deal.
Okay. Well, do you have the supplies for it, maybe?
I don't.
Oh, yeah. Because there's a
Sword of
supply
Whiterun?
source thing. The Sword of Whiterun looks really cool. Ah! I don't know why I'm so tired. I didn't even do anything today. There's a thing called the Saber League, which entails exactly what you think you would by the word saber, which people fight with plastic lightsabers and protective gear. That's incredible, actually. Have you guys seen the Hobby Horse Girl on TikTok?
Oh,
Because,
God.
like, I understand that I'm a VTuber, right? I have absolutely no right to yuck someone else's yum. I'm a fucking anime girl on the internet. But, like, listen, and I was all for it, you know? Like, hey, girl, do what makes you happy. Have fun. But when she posted the video of her, like, screaming and shaking and crying and being like, this is what hobby horsing is really like. And like trying to make it seem like it was harder than actual horseback riding, I was kind of like,
You
and
lost
if
me.
If you don't know what hobby horsing is, just look it up, and you'll know what I'm talking. You'll get it then. You'll get it then. Oh my god! So
All
we're
right, so-
ending at 180 displays today.
Not quite,
Oh, we still have things to do
because we have.
That's the thing. It's like I do dumb shit for fun. Like I'm not gonna, but pretending you're like better than everyone else because you like to jump over hurdles on a little horse on a stick. I'm sorry, bestie.
You're allowed to do that for fun, but don't act like
Yeah.
it's some like physically demanding.
It
I
is
forgot
not
the
an
venison.
Olympic sport. I'm sorry.
I forgot the venison. I will never live this down.
I wasn't gonna say anything when you looted all those elks and then didn't take the venison because I figured you knew what you were doing, but I did watch you pass up on all that venison.
I am Bobo the Fool.
You are Boo Boo the Fool.
All right, there we go. 2 more dragons.
Yay, dragons!
All right, so we'll just do a quick walkthrough, I guess. First, we got these bugs.
Bugs
Look at
in
them
a jar.
bugs.
Bugs in
You
a
like the
jar.
bugs, Aryan? All right.
He loves the bugs. Oh, we didn't look at all the rocks.
Oh, do you want to look at the rocks?
No, well, yeah, let's look at the rocks.
I already turned around.
I
I'll look
like
at
the
rocks.
whole natural science is one of my favorites, low-key. Okay. Show us everything. Look,
Okay.
do we have any fish yet?
We do not.
Oh.
These are our rocks.
I love rocks. Okay, that's
Okay.
it. I just want to see
Just
that.
like a keeper
Oh,
boss.
thank you so much for the follow. And I guess I can keep Gorbash. Welcome to the stream. We are checking out our museum. Is day 1, and we have 180 artifacts. The rocks need better lighting. Yeah, it's kind of dark in there.
This is our singular painting of a mammoth.
It's beautiful.
He's doing great.
I love it.
We have... It's a little dark in here. I'll have to mess around with the ENB settings a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know how to fix it.
But I do. We have 2 rings. Look at those rings.
You can kind of see them if you squint your eyes really hard.
Yep. We have this singular lunar steel mace. I will need to go back for the rest of them.
It looks cool, though.
It is cool. The retexture is very good.
Yeah. A lot of the weapons look a lot better in the mod pack.
I think we're not going to go into the Hall of Secrets because I don't think I have
anything. Yeah,
anything
if we don't have anything for it, we can skip it for now. I do want to see where the library's at, though.
So, library, we've got a couple special books.
Not a ton, but...
Not a ton.
I don't remember it being this dark in here, so I don't know what's going on there.
I think it might also be the time of day. Let me wait until daytime.
Oh, yeah, that might make things easier. Just one of those things is I was like, it's not always that dark in here. My EMB settings aren't that bad.
Well, no, by default, these are fine, but, like, for stream, it does make it hard to see things.
Yeah, that's fair.
Oh, there we go.
Pretty! Isn't it nice? I love the, like, stained glass windows.
You're back.
Ah.
Wonderful. I trust things.
I never
fairly.
left.
I found an odd weapon from a...
Thank
Here,
you.
have a look.
And now you get another one.
Yeah, so we've got, these are the series. We've got the 36 Sermons of Vivek. The 13 City Guides.
Yeah, I love watching I love watching everything, like, start filling up. You know what I mean?
We have some, restricted books.
Fancy books.
We've got, a few more. So that's where the library's at. These are the Winter Sun Gods expanded shrines. So right now we just have, the Magna Gi. Then we can go ahead and hit the East Exhibit Hall.
I know we got a few things from there.
We do. There's nothing
This
in the
one's really
Daedric
pretty.
Gallery right now.
No, we haven't done any Daedra stuff yet.
But we've got this Jade Warrior, which is required.
Yeah, there's the Jade Warrior, or the Jade Collection's kind of all scattered about.
We got
the harp.
This harp that we stole from the Thalmor.
Fuck the Thalmor.
A jug. We have this Saber Cat figurine, genie lamp.
A lot of just miscellaneous stuff here and there.
Just some random, jeweled stuff.
Yeah.
I don't actually. What goes in here?
She got her titties out.
Is this the Vigilant?
I think it's the Vigilant stuff.
Yeah. We'll get around to that.
Vigilant's really fun. I love that mod. It's a good mod.
We don't have anything in the Hall of Lost Empires yet.
I think a lot of it is honestly just the armory that we got today.
Yeah, and the library is decently full.
The armory and the library. Well, and those are the ones that you usually get first because you get all the iron stuff, all the steel stuff, all the dwarven stuff, all the blah, 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 blah.
Let me hang up Thornblade. That's most of what's in here right now.
Yeah.
And then we'll hit the armory, and then we'll call it a day.
Armory is fun to go in, though. I like seeing how everything looks when it's all completed.
Just so we're clear, by the way, I'm going to stream everything except one item that I'm keeping secret because the mod authors would want it that way.
And that is very respectful of you.
So, yep.
Very, very goated.
Here's the Whiterun guard stuff, the Sword of Whiterun.
We still need the shield.
We do.
Did you get the Spoon of Assassination?
That's the one I'm not showing. We'll get it off stream.
What was the... So is it basically like something where it's like they don't want you to... Is it like the, what's it called? The getting over it, where they're like, don't show this,
I'll put it this way, it's not on the official wiki, because they want people to figure it out on their own.
Okay.
So
Can I watch you do it?
Sure.
Yay.
But in that spirit, I'm not gonna show it.
That's fair.
We'll get it. But yeah, so that is,
Maybe he'll give you a cheeky little hint.
That is where we're at.
Yay!
So let me make a save.
We did good. So we're at like 180 something for our first day?
183.
That's a lot better than I did. That's almost a third of what I got to in 33 streams.
So we're off to a good start.
This is crazy when you it's crazy how fast you can get stuff when you don't get distracted every 2 minutes. That's really impressive. I don't know how you do it.
So, yeah, I don't know either. Step one, though, next time,
On Dragon Ball Z.
On Dragon Ball Z. I think the plan is to clear out all those bandit camps and then start going from hold to hold, becoming Thane. With the exception, we cannot do Winterhold, or not Winterhold, Windhelm, but most of the other ones we're going to start working on.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, that was, yeah, that's crazy. Well, I guess now is our time to close out the stream. So, David, can I get in the driver's seat for a second?
Yeah.
David doesn't know how to raid people.
It's true, I don't.
And that's okay. Maybe one day you'll learn, but you don't need to learn today.
Not today.
Not today. Alright. Gamers, thank you so much for the fun stream. You saved, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna yeetus, deletus. There we go. But gamers, thank you so much for the fun stream. I'm really, like, honestly proud of how much. Oh wait, that's my old just chatting. Hold on, we don't need that anymore. Donathon ended like 7 billion years ago. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today. Hopefully we will get more and more artifacts. I'm kind of eager to see. Well, statistically, it's only gonna take 4 streams for David to pass us. But we got a lot of work done. We got a good amount of work done. So thank you all, gamers, for hanging out with me. Who is online? Who can we send our love and affection to? Who's live right now? Let's see. Let's see. We're gonna raid. Let's see. We're gonna raid Bruise. Bruise is really sweet. They are in the Tavern Talk live dub with me. They are an absolute dear. They're so nice, and they are doing an art stream. So we're gonna raid them. Let me make sure I spelled their name correctly. Did I do that right? I did. Okay. Awesome. I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if I did that right. And what should our raid message be? Let's do let's just do Eebee raid. Let me write it out for you guys. Eebee raid. Bing bong. Okay, there we go. Alrighty. Alright, gamers. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Please give Bruce the same love and affection you do for me. And I will see you guys not next week. I will see you guys on Sunday for Skyrim Sunday, where I will be back playing and making bad choices. All right. Good night, gamers. Bye-bye.